welcome everybody. We got another episode of Banter on the Rocks today. We got Tim here, John. We got another great episode. We are in October, so we still have our little spooky type theme. So we got some good stuff on today's episode. We're going to be talking about MLB postseason. Dodgers won off to the World Series with the Yankees, so we'll talk a little bit about that. A little bit about that. We got NFL hot takes as always. There's a lot of NFL news. We've just finished Monday night also, doubleheader Monday night game, so we'll talk a little bit. We're gonna talk some horror movies. Like I said, it's Halloween, good time to talk about horror stuff and a bit more of horror stuff. Some of these haunted forests, have a little discussion, go a little deeper. So great stuff today. But before we continue with the episode, just wanted to remind everybody, we are brand ambassadors for Find the Good brand. Um, with the Find a Good brand, they give back 10% to Mental Health of America organization. So, all your purchases go to a good cause. And if you use code Banter 805, you will also get 10% off your order. So, pick up some hoodies, some shirts, some hats. Tim's repping. I think you got your hoodie today. Nice. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And order came with a hat as well.
Yeah.
Really good quality. As Sean mentioned,
Mhm.
Find the Good is definitely embroidered. The back is really cool, has a really nice graphic on it.
Yeah.
Extremely comfortable, great
Yeah.
quality stuff.
Great quality stuff. Like I mentioned, great message, and just great supporting mental
Mhm.
health in America. It's always important. Finding the good in every day, and like we always talk about, we find the good in doing this podcast, having fun talking about all these topics. So we're excited to be brand ambassadors with them, and to hang out with you guys and chit chat. But before we also get started with all our topics, Banter on the Rocks, we're always here taking a little drinks, making some mixed drinks, different concoctions every time. Today, I don't have my normal cup. I can't find it. Somewhere in my washing somewhere. But today I just did a simple tequila with orange juice. So keeping it simple today. Didn't have much ingredients. But what about you, Tim?
Always delicious though. Got always repping this. Just love this
Yes.
cup to death. We're going a whiskey highball. So whiskey, I actually used Fresca for this, but I mean you can use things like soda water, you can use ginger
Mhm.
ale even. But it's whiskey with a little bit of a citrus add to it. You can throw a lemon in it. It's great.
Nice.
I'm loving it so far. It's
It's good.
really smooth.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I think it's always good. I know I think we talked about it a little bit before we started the episode. Some whiskey people may not be too happy with it because they like whiskey just straight up. I'll say I
Yep.
do enjoy it a little bit straight up, but sometimes I like to add a little something, a little splash.
You know, I'm kind of like Michael Scott sometimes. Just you have some bourbon and you just go have some Splenda. Just a
Yeah.
little something in there, make things a little easier.
Some Splenda. That'd be hilarious to put into an alcoholic
Yeah,
drink. Oh
right.
yeah. Awesome. Awesome. But all right.
Always tasty.
It is. It is. All these drinks I think we've always had, and like we've always mentioned, anything new comes out there, anything you feel like we should try, good or bad, we'll give you guys our honest opinions. We enjoy having a drink here and there. So let us know. But to get started with today's episode, we'll talk about MLB postseason. So we saw Yankees won over the weekend. They're going off to the World Series, and Dodgers won yesterday. So we have our World Series appearance, Yankees Dodgers, and um for me, I'm excited. As a Dodger fan, I'm excited. We're back to the World Series, trying to win that. It's been 4 years. I truly think we probably should have won. We should have about like five or six in the last like 10 years. That's how good our teams have been. Um, so I hope we can win it. I don't want the Yankees to win it. Like, I think it's great. It's going to be great money, but I'm just not want. I'm rooting for the Dodger fan, but it's going to be a tough game. What do you think, Tim, about the World Series?
I actually am super excited for this World Series. The showcase of Judge versus
Mhm.
Shohei is, I mean, the two biggest sluggers in the league going at it. I mean, it's not much better, and then you throw in people like Soto who hit that clutch home run at the end of the
Yeah.
Yankees win to put them up in the 10th. And, just so much talent on each team. These are two of the highest payrolls, or if not the highest payrolls in all
Mm-hmm.
of baseball. So you're going to see the talent, of course,
Mm-hmm.
because they're getting paid the big bucks.
Yep.
Um, but overall, battle's getting there. I feel like I'm not overly surprised by this matchup. I'd say
Mm-hmm.
honestly, but super excited for it. Really interested to see, just the outcome of it. I just think that with all this talent, pitching, I think is going to be a big deal. This
Mm-hmm.
World Series, I've prefaced it all along with the Dodgers. Can the bullpen step up? I mean, they've obviously been winning. They've been stepping up, but they've
Mm-hmm.
also been doing it, which is scoring a ton of
Mm-hmm.
runs. I mean, they put up what, 10 last game?
Yeah.
Gave up six. Was it 10-6 final
I think it was
score
ten
of
six.
that
Yeah.
last one?
Yeah. We started
Ten
giving up
six.
a few
Yeah.
runs. So yeah.
hmm But overall, I'm super excited for it. And I have a little proposition here for you, John.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, I'm going to split this podcast. I am going to root Yankees. And if the Dodgers win, I will go out and buy a Dodger hat and wear it for the podcast after the World
Okay.
Series. I will do
So
that.
all right.
Absolutely.
Nice. You guys heard it here first.
Yep. Yep. I'll
Yeah.
do it. But put a little bit, writing on this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm confident in those Yankees. I think that they can hold it down. I love the throwback of, just two old school New York teams.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously one went west, but it'll be a fun one. It's going to be a really good
Yeah.
World Series.
Yeah, I think it's going to be good. Like you mentioned, for me, I think my biggest question mark is the pitching. Can we sustain it against some big hitters? The start of their lineups, the first half. That's what we always have to get through. It's going to be tough. But I think from what I've seen from the Dodgers, we can manage it. I think as long as our hitters stay just as hot, just as consistent. I think, like I say, we have great team. We have Otani, we have Betts. Tommy Edman has stepped it up. Kike Hernandez, he just comes up clutch too. So, um, I'm really excited. I'm calling this game in six. I think we're winning it back here in LA. Um, I hope we just sweep. That's my preference. I don't want to see it go too much. I don't want that much anxiety in my life for the next few weeks. I want to get it over with. But I have the game go,
Fair.
Dodgers winning in six, and with us, beating the Mets, that was a lot of anxiety too, because the Mets were just playing, very good baseball. They had some hot bats. But now we beat the Mets, we took down Grimace. I'm finally a supporter again of McDonald's, able to go. I stopped eating McDonald's or even thinking about it because of Grimace, supporting the Mets. I couldn't support him, but now since that's over, it's good to move on.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, in I mean, you guys really shut them down. The Mets were on such a huge
Mhm.
run there throughout the first couple series that they were involved with in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And you guys just really shut them down. One thing about the Dodgers, and you prefaced it, guys like Kike Hernandez
Hmm.
or Tommy Edman, who I think were, injured. I know Kike, I don't think he was injured too much, but he's just more of that utility bench
Hmm.
player. I don't know how, but I swear, like these hidden talents on the
Yeah.
Dodgers always come through in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And, just every batter in that lineup
Hmm.
has a huge bat and
Yeah.
can go yard at any moment. And I think that's what makes you guys so dangerous. But it's also what makes the Yankees dangerous because I
Yeah.
feel like they have a lot of the same.
Hmm.
One thing, I don't know what the current record is of home runs in a World Series, but I think it could get broken
Yeah.
just with
Hmm.
the sheer power. And Shohei at Yankee Stadium is going to be it's going to be
That
crazy to watch.
that's gonna be awesome. Like I say, we played the Mets, so we've gotten the taste of that cold October nights, so they know what to expect. It won't be a surprise. But yeah, like you mentioned, we have a lot of these hidden talents. Teoscar Hernandez, he didn't come up clutch against the Mets, but against the Padres, he did, help us get through that series. And Tommy Edman, Kike, Will Smith came up with some big homers too. So
Yep.
we have these players that, they're not the big stars, Mookie, Shohei, Freeman, but they're guys we can rely on. And as we saw yesterday, with the NLDS, like, it wasn't Shohei that won MVP. It was Tommy Edman because of what he did to help us win, and that's the team game. And, I don't think Shohei really cared about that. I think Shohei is excited just to go to the World Series, So I was talking to Vera because Vera's, she's somewhat of an Angels fan for some reason. I have no idea why. And she knows about
Hmm.
Shohei, and I was like, "How do you even know who Shohei Ohtani is? You're a Red Sox, fan." Um, but I was like, "Look, Shohei comes the first year to the Dodgers. We take him to the World Series. Where with the Angels, he didn't even make the playoffs, so he's in a better place. I think Mike Trout. Think about that as well. We got the money here in LA. I don't know if Tim wants to make a little pitch for Trout.
Man, that payroll is just outrageous. What are you guys going to defer that also? I
No,
mean,
we
good
can.
Lord. Uh, I think I'd see Trout going to Philly before
Philly.
then.
Hmm.
Yeah, he's from the area. I feel like he would
Yeah.
be a good pairing with guys like Bryce Harper over there.
Hmm.
Or you could just come up north and come play
Hmm.
for the Giants. That's cool
Yeah.
too. We have Buster Posey at the helm now, so
Yeah.
but who's talking Giants baseball right now? Probably nobody.
No
That's what
way.
makes us different, John.
Yeah. No, we'll talk all that. But I looked it up. Dodgers, Yankees, they are the top, in the top three for highest payroll, but the Mets were up there too. I think
Mhm.
the Mets were higher than the Dodgers as
Oh,
well.
dang.
So it showed, three of the top, payroll teams made it this far. I think the Guardians were a surprise to make it, but they had a solid team. There's a lot of I think we talked about it. The Royals, the Orioles, Guardians, they all have young players, so they're going to be someone to reckon with the next few years. So, um, I think baseball has been a good series, good, postseason. I've enjoyed all the games, watched it a lot more now that we have this podcast, talk about it a lot, and just because my
Mhm.
Dodgers are in it too, I enjoy it a lot more.
For sure. And you mentioned payrolls. I feel like the good thing for both of these teams
Hmm.
is that the money's locked up in players that are worth it.
Hmm.
There's you bring up the Mets. It's been pretty dicey with where that
Hmm.
money's going. Guys like Francisco Lindor, I know he's been phenomenal this year and was
Hmm.
really clutch in the playoffs. But up until this point, he was still getting paid the big bucks, and I just feel like the
Hmm.
talent wasn't there quite as much.
Yeah.
Obviously, they made it deep in the playoffs this year. Props to them. So, in the general thought of everything, the money
Hmm.
was well spent overall. But
Yeah.
when it comes to Yankees Dodgers, the people you're paying the big dollar amounts to are
Hmm.
are far for sure worth that money. There's no
Yeah.
doubt.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. And that's why we're in the World Series. I've read some articles, some people saying that this isn't the World Series people wanted. I think they're just lying to themselves. I think this is the World Series we all
Mhm.
wanted to see. We all wanted to see the two biggest shows currently, the two, some of the best players, some of these home run hitters, Ohtani, Judge, Soto, Machado, Betts, like some of the best known players, in the game, and two historic franchises, two of the most winningest franchises. It's going to be great baseball. I'm excited for it. If people say they aren't, I call bullshit. If they're saying this isn't going to be exciting, they're not going to watch it. Bullshit. But hey, that's just me.
For sure. I think that's the Mets fans, that's the Guardian fans, that's the Royal fans, that's the
Hmm.
Padre fans.
Yeah.
You speak of crybabies, you really hit it on the nail this past week, John.
Yeah.
With Padre fans, it could be a lot of Padre fans that are upset. So
Yeah. But
yeah, you know.
yeah, there not much I can say. That it's my opinion. I think
Yeah.
they still are crybabies. They're crying about it right now because they're probably like that could have been us. And hey, it could have been you, but you let one little news article get to you, bother you. That's what you get. So, you know,
For sure. And based off of your last Insta post, I think a lot of people agree with you, John.
yeah.
So, it's yeah. I mean, I did because I hate
Yeah.
both teams. I'm good either way.
Yeah. You're like, I don't care who loses. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure.
For sure. Yeah,
Mhm.
good baseball. And if you want to move forward to
Hmm.
some football, I think that there's a
Yeah,
ton to recap.
there
Um,
is.
not quite as an exciting time of the season, but hey,
Mhm.
every week of the season I feel like is a fun time in NFL
Yeah.
football. Um, we can start off with just injuries.
Hmm.
And, I know that we can dabble, perfectly into, the Cleveland Browns and things,
Hmm.
but I feel like maybe this is the good leeway into what happened on Monday Night Football
Hmm.
with the Baltimore Ravens Tampa Bay Bucks game.
Yeah.
And both wide receivers going down, Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, both dealing with injuries. I feel like that 4-3 team now
Hmm.
is now kind of looking a little murky, especially with the
Yeah.
running game already banged up. What do you think, John?
Yeah, I think the Bucks had a good chance of making it into the playoffs. They were showing a lot. Baker was, with Godwin and Evans, he was showing why he got paid last year. It's a great team. Their defense stopped us for two drives. Then, as a Ravens fan, we dominated them. You know, no, nothing about that. But the injuries, I feel bad for them. I like Mike Evans, great football player. Um, he was already dealing with a hamstring injury, so I think he just re-aggravated it. And the way he fell and how he was holding that hamstring, it just doesn't look too good, but who knows? Hopefully it's not too bad. And then Godwin, I didn't see it. I saw the reports that, they had to put an air cast on him. So when you hear about an air cast, it's already not good news. And Godwin was on pace to be one of the top wide receivers this year. All his yards after carry, after his catches, he's one of the top in the NFL. So that's just a bummer for him going down when he was doing so well this year after sort of, being put on, I'm not going to say on the bench, but always was behind Mike Evans. So unfortunate stuff for the Buccaneers, the fans, you know. I think my one question, Tim, and to everybody is like, they were losing, they were two touchdowns away with like, I think it was like a minute and a half, and they were trying so hard when I was, if they wouldn't have tried that hard, Godwin might have not gotten hurt and their season would still be, somewhat salvageable. But now I truly think there's nothing there. So I don't know. What do you think, Tim? Like when these teams are still trying, it's pretty much guaranteed they're not going to win. Like they're two scores away with under 2 minutes. You need a miracle. Are you going to risk injury like to your players, to your team?
No, not week. What, 6 are we right now?
Yeah.
Week 7? Week 7. Not now. I don't think it's worth it, especially knowing the circumstances of the division that the Bucks are in. You have
Hmm.
the Panthers and Saints who are clear like write-offs. Like,
Hmm.
your only real competition is the Falcons, and they lost 2 this week. They're
Yeah.
not looking like a super powerhouse anyways. I don't completely unnecessary injury. I
Hmm.
think, I think you bench players on that final drive. Yeah,
Hmm.
you made that little bit of a comeback, but arguably it's kind of a garbage time comeback.
Hmm.
Baltimore was up huge, and I don't know. You already had one wide receiver go down hurt earlier in the
Hmm.
game, and your running game's already been banged up.
Hmm.
Now you have a probably season ending, so it seems, the way that he was
Yeah.
carted off the field with Godwin. I don't know. In that free agent market, it's not like you're really going out there and getting a whole lot right now
Hmm.
to replace him.
Yeah.
And, that defense has kind of been struggling. I think today's a clear showing of that.
Hmm.
So I don't know. It kind of murky from what was a really good start with the Bucks.
Yeah.
That final minute really just put a huge, knife in things. What do you
Yeah.
think? Would you have benched
I
Godwin or just your starters in that final drive?
I would have benched, the starters. I saw a good clip or today about Saquon, yesterday sort of, it was garbage time. They were up big and he was, I think, like 15, 20 yards away from breaking his like all-time
Mm.
yards. And, the coach asked him, you want to go in or and Saquon was like, no, let these young players let them get work, and I think this is a good opportunity of let these young players develop, let them do a 2 minute drill, because yes, you do it in practice, but in the game, in that environment, it's so much more different. So I think it would have been more beneficial that way if you would have scored. Great, great confidence for them to help you, especially with already losing Mike Evans, on that offense. So I would have benched them, but that's just my mindset. Who knows the adrenaline during the game, thinking you could pull off that miracle, but I think we all have to be realistic. It's like those miracles are so rare to happen. So yeah, it's unfortunate. And, sort of another injury, you mentioned it, wide receiver market, sort of thin. There isn't much out there. But the other team that sort of struggle is your team, the 49ers. Ayuk, we got the news, season-ending injury. I don't think we were on the Ayuk, train this year because of just the poor production he's had, but still unfortunate. I don't think we wanted to see that from him. I think we know the potential Ayuk has to be one of the top wide receivers in this league. And then Debo, also coming out, so, it's tough. Injury woes continue for the 49ers. Um, but do you guys think you're gonna try to I read something that you guys are gonna try to look into the wide receiver market because you guys do need the help. You guys are still a team to be reckoned with, but do you feel like there's anybody out there you're willing to go with? Devontae Adam was the one person I would think, but he's at the Jets now, which I think he regrets.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, that's a ugly situation. Went from bad to maybe worse. I don't know. Um, I I don't see who's out there. I think you have to make a trade, if
Hmm.
anything, for a real talent. I mean, does Antonio Brown, want to make a comeback anytime soon? It's a rough market, and Amari Cooper certainly came to mind, but he's already been dealt. And
Hmm.
outside of that, you kind of look towards teams that could be tanking. Is it a team like the Dolphins?
Hmm.
We'll get into the Tua situation a little bit later,
Hmm.
but how much fight is that team really going to put up this year? They're technically still kind of in it because that whole division is not
Hmm.
performing, but outside of the Bills, of course. But I just Tyreek, that would be
Hmm.
killer.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think I saw Jacoby Myers thrown out there in a
Hmm.
post. He could be interesting, but is he going to make all the difference in the world?
Hmm.
I don't know at this point. It's just a rough situation. Kittle's hurt again.
Hmm.
Uh, prayers up for Debo. He's getting fluid pumped out of his lungs
Hmm.
currently in the hospital
Pneumonia. Hmm.
with pneumonia, which is really rough. Um, defensive injuries. Warner went out again on for a little bit, this past weekend. Um, don't mess with this guy either.
Yeah.
Chiefs players or anybody in the league, you just get fucking railed in the face if
Hmm.
you try to fuck with him.
Yeah.
But just in general, wide receivers, I don't know. I don't think there's much out there.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you've seen, John, that you feel like might
Uh,
be like, hey, that's worth it?
I've heard a few things. Like I think I don't know how many episodes or it was last week we sort of talked about Matt Stafford, the Rams sort of taking. I've been hearing Cooper Kupp's name coming up, as a person possibly being traded. I don't think the Rams will do that because I think they have a good setup with Cup, and Puka. I think they just might need a quarterback because I think Stafford's on his way out. Um, but there isn't much more, it's funny, you say the Dolphins and, you know, you guys gave up a lot of draft picks to the Dolphins and they drafted Waddle with, what you gave them for Trey Lance, and now you're gonna maybe try to go back for either Tyreek or Waddle. I think they'd be great on your team, but just, now what else are you giving the Dolphins, after that Lance trade? It would be a little hilarious. I hate to say it, but it would be.
Yeah, no, for sure. That would be a full circle moment in a bad way. That's
Hmm.
for sure. There is one name that I forgot to mention that is kind of circulating, kind of supposedly,
Hmm.
rumors. DeAndre Hopkins
Hmm.
on
Hmm.
Tennessee. They're clearly not much,
Yeah.
of a fighter to be in the playoff hunt, but I think that he's the perfect vet to get in
Hmm.
there and just perform right away. And I don't know. That would be really interesting. I'd
That,
like to see DeAndre Hopkins,
mhm.
at this point in his career, maybe make a run at it.
Yeah, I think that'd be a good one. I think he fit into that, culture and environment in San Francisco. Him and Trent Williams, DeAndre Hopkins, a wide receiver you don't mess with. I've seen some of his highlights. He'd
Nah.
be in the trenches there with Trent Williams, and those are two people nobody shouldn't be messing with. So I think you guys
Yep.
would have, a great duo. So yeah, we'll see. But with the 49ers, Tim. Are you concerned? Do you think there's still a possibility of turning around, or yeah, are you throwing in the towel yet?
Certainly not going to throw in the towel.
Okay.
Can't do that on this roster. The team's too good. And I don't know, for a while there, with former guests,
hmm
they always hit me up. I always hit them up on Sundays, Jimmy and Estevan.
hmm
I might as well start a group chat at this point because we all have the same exact feelings. I don't know. We put in a lot of fight. I was thinking about it that O line has been kind of underperforming at points in
hmm
time, but this past week I just honestly I was kind of rethinking things, watching some highlights. I think Purdy just had a bad game,
hmm
with a lot of what was going on, and of course his options were kind of you know
hmm
obviously injured, and it's just rough. I'm certainly concerned. I don't know. I we got to start winning. And I don't know, this past week, if say
hmm
we meet the Chiefs again in the Super Bowl,
hmm
if all answers, are if God answers everything, and
Yeah.
we make it back there again, we looked really pretty bad. We need
hmm
everybody back and healthy before we reach that point.
hmm
And when I say healthy, like 100%, like Christian McCaffrey's been out all year, but we somehow still made the
hmm
playoffs healthy, then we might have a
Yeah.
fighting chance. But
Yeah.
I mean, as an outsider, I mean, I'm always kind of somewhat hopeful for my team. As an outsider, what do you think, John? Are Niners hopes? You think they should just throw in the towel and call it a season, or you think they should make some trades and really go at it?
I think they need to make some trades. I don't, I just bring up the question, because I wanted to get your thoughts. I don't know what some Niner fans feel, but
Mhm.
I think there's still a lot that they could do. I think, it's just a team around them, and they have to make those trades because even if it's just, 1 year rentals you're getting from some of these trades, you're players to sort of help you get through there, go for it because you're gonna have to pay Brock Purdy. I know you guys have the money, the room for it. You guys have been prepping for it, but it once you pay him the next few years, you might not be able to pay as many players, so you're gonna lose a lot of momentum. So I think it's making the trade, making some moves, hoping CMC comes back healthy. I think that's a big piece. I think if you guys can make the trades, make the playoffs, even just make the wild card, and CMC comes back healthy, you guys are going to be the dark horses. A 6 seed being able to win the Super Bowl because your best player is coming back. You have the receivers. If your offensive line just starts clicking, and even the defense, you guys have some defensive struggles right now with injuries. If they all come back healthy by the playoffs and, the team you guys have, your next man up, you know, motto you guys have in San Francisco works out, you guys are going to be a team to reckon with, you know. Um, so I think there's still a chance, but we got to see what happens these next few weeks.
For sure. Yeah. And one of the things I said to Jimbo earlier today was if you can do a PowerPoint presentation of the amount of injuries you have, you're not looking good.
No.
And I feel like you can certainly do that because I saw a
Mhm.
slideshow of it earlier
Yeah, I
today and it
saw it
was
too, I
rough.
think.
I clicked off. Oh, you did? Yeah, yeah. No, I
hmm
clicked off of it really quickly. I just didn't want to look at it. Uh, and on the other end of the football this past Sunday with the Niners playing the Chiefs. Do you think that they are a favorite to win it all with the way that they looked? The Lions are
hmm
certainly looking like a powerhouse. Your Ravens are looking great.
hmm
Who do you kind of have in the mix at the top right now?
Um, I can't discount the Chiefs because they have Patrick Mahomes. they're not playing like the normal Chiefs. They aren't doing that well. I truly thought they were going to lose yesterday. I thought the 49ers were going to win. And I think if they had their players all healthy, nobody would have gotten injured. You guys might have pulled it off. But I think there's still someone you have to favor. But I think one of the hottest teams right now is the Detroit Lions. I think that's one team you can't shy away of. They did lose Aiden Hutchinson, but they're still playing great football. They just beat the Vikings, and the Vikings are another team, They have one loss, but they're still a very good football team. They stayed there with the Lions. It was a high scoring game. It was a good game. So I I think those are two teams. And then I think the Ravens. I think what the Ravens showed today, Lamar throwing for touchdowns, running, Derrick Henry just bulldozing people, another, you know, what was it, like 60, 80 yard run? Like this guy still
81, 81.
81. Like this guy
Yeah.
still has it. Like, yes, the first three games we struggled, and I think it was just us having someone new, getting used to Derrick Henry and how we were going to utilize him. Because I think the first game against the Chiefs, we didn't use him the way we're using them now. So I think if we would meet the Chiefs like any of these next few weeks, I don't think they have a chance against us. But like I say, but you can't discount the Chiefs because they have Patrick Mahomes, and that's the NFL's team. That's not America's team. That's the NFL's team. They get away with a lot of stuff. I think I mentioned to you, Trent
Yeah.
Williams got ejected for punching, but if you look at the highlights, the Chief player punched first, straight up, you could see it was a sock. It was a boom right in the face. And, you do that to Trent Williams, he doesn't care if you're wearing a helmet. He's going to punch you hard. And that player probably felt it, so I still feel NFL wants the Chiefs to win. That's why they're getting favored. That player didn't get ejected. He should have been ejected as well. So, and I think every week we see calls that, aren't being called on the Chiefs, but they're being called on every other team. So, um, I hope it's not that way, but the way it looks to me, I think that's who the NFL wants to win. But there's a lot of teams that I don't think they were expecting, and I don't think they're the clear out favorites, but you got to keep them in the conversation.
For sure. NFL conspiracy theory question here for you, John.
Yeah.
Do you think the NFL, with somebody who's already won three Super Bowls at the young age that Patrick Mahomes is,
Mhm.
wants a player to rival what Tom Brady has done with the seven Super Bowl wins?
Yeah. I think it's because it's Tom Brady and the controversy the Patriots have given. Spygate,
Yep.
Deflategate, you know, everything that supposedly they did that, which it's all allegations. We don't know what happened. But because of that, Patrick Mahomes is the poster child for the NFL. And I think Tom Brady is that. They want someone to replace Tom Brady because Tom Brady has those asterisks because of Spygate, Deflategate. Patrick Mahomes doesn't have any of that, so I think they want that clean look, not the Tom Brady, but I don't think you'll ever be able to take that away from Tom Brady. He's the GOAT. He's the first one that did it. He was one of the lower draft picks,
Yep.
you know, so, but I don't know. What do you think, Tim? You think there's a conspiracy theory in
I, I,
NFL?
yeah, I feel like that's
Hmm.
what definitely spurred up my conversation because top five things, definitely what's in there of what gets me pissed off the most is rewatching replays of the
Hmm.
offensive line hold the Niners in the
Hmm.
Super Bowl wins that they have against us.
Yeah.
Like there's literally replays of chokeholds,
Hmm.
especially on the final drive that allowed the Chiefs to run down the field and take the lead at the end of the game last Super Bowl. There was holding on almost every play. There
Hmm.
was false starts that
Hmm.
were a huge deal. They were doing it the entire game, and nothing was called.
Hmm.
I feel like it's really evident. I'm gonna come off as like just some type of, oh, he's just a Niners fan, blah blah blah. It's literally on video
Hmm.
now. Like
Hmm.
they literally jump every single time.
Hmm.
And I mean, props to them. If the NFL is not going to call it, keep doing it until
Yeah.
they do. like kind of like Legion of Boom back in the day. They can't call
Mhm.
PI on every play,
Mhm.
so rough them up.
Yeah.
I think that's the mentality. And look, they took advantage of it and won a Super
Mhm.
Bowl. And I just I think that's where it's at. And you mentioned it. Brady obviously brings a lot of controversy to Roger Goodell in the NFL.
Mhm.
And if they want anybody to rival it, the nearest thing that they have right now is Patrick Mahomes.
Mhm.
And there's a huge obsession for him and the Chiefs all together right now. And yeah, I just the least surprising news would be, Chiefs winning a fourth Super Bowl
Mhm.
in what, 6 years, five
Yeah.
years. I, I I just could see it happening.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I said, I don't think it's just Niner fans saying that. I think it's all fans because we could go back to even any other game that any team has played against the Chiefs. You'll see those holds. You'll see
Mhm.
those, false starts. You'll see a lot of things that get called for other teams, but they don't get called all the time for them. And like you mentioned, if they could get away with it, go for it. Get away with it as long as you can before it really becomes something. But it's unfortunate for the game, for the fans, if that's the case, that they're trying to push this agenda. Um, but you know, it is what it is. I hope it isn't. Like I said, I think this year they're gonna have a lot more competition with a lot of these teams in the AFC and in the NFC. So um we'll see. But yeah, Chiefs, Chiefs Kingdom, Taylor Kingdom. I don't even know what to call them nowadays.
A little bit of everything.
A little bit.
And I just hope Lamar performs in the playoffs because honestly, I could see AFC Championship just being, a rematch of last year,
Hmm.
Ravens Chiefs. And Lamar, he looked phenomenal tonight.
Hmm.
And another thing I wanted to preface with the Ravens was not, just Lamar or, Derrick Henry, but Rashad Bateman. I feel like
Hmm.
this is exactly what you guys drafted him for. He's
Yeah.
finally catching the ball consistently. He took over when Zay Flowers went down with an
Hmm.
injury. You have a reemergence of Mark Andrews, but
Yeah.
you still have depth at that position.
Hmm.
You guys have everything going for you,
Hmm.
and maybe the defense is a little bit more of a question mark than it's been in years past. But
Yeah.
if you guys can get that to click, you guys have so
Hmm.
much consistency with coaching on that team.
Hmm.
I just feel like it's now or never, for your Ravens. And I know you don't want to talk about them too much, but honestly, I'm rooting for them out of the AFC because I don't want to see the Chiefs anymore in the Super Bowl. That's just me.
Yeah. No, I don't like talking about it too much because I'm just superstitious and jinxing it, but I do think our offense, we have one of the most dominant offenses in the league. Bateman's coming up. I think we talked about it. Andrews was lost for the first, handful of games,
Mhm.
and now the last two games he has a touchdown. He has two touchdowns today, so he's still there. It's just there's so many weapons around that we don't have to rely on Mark Andrews, which is what I like because I think you know when you rely on one player so much, it wears and tears them by the end of the season. And we saw what happened last year. He went down with a nasty foot injury. He came back for the playoffs, but was he 100%? Probably not. And could he have been better if he was fully healthy? Yes, so I do see the AFC being a rematch. I do hope Lamar Jackson can perform in the playoffs a lot better than he has. And I think for us to be successful, we just have to stick to the game script. Do what we've been doing. Don't try to get fancy. Yes, everybody is going to see, 8, 17, 18, 19 weeks of film on us, but we're winning because we're doing the same thing over and over. We're not changing it up. We're not trying to get fancy, do these trick plays. Just stick to what we know, and I think we could win.
For sure. Yeah. And talk about not sticking to what perfect leeway here
Mm-hmm.
into uh, what the hell did the Giants do? Question
Hmm.
mark with letting Barkley go because he ran all over him. As you mentioned earlier, could have set a record against them, but was a
Hmm.
true leader and said, "Hey, let's see what these young bucks can
Hmm.
do. Let them go eat." When it comes down to it, John, I know that we kind
Hmm.
of saw it a little bit in Hard Knocks this
Hmm.
offseason, that final conversation that the Giants had with
Yeah.
with Barkley, and that's just ugly. And I'm sure it's replayed a lot this week.
Hmm.
Whose fault do you think it comes down
Hmm.
to? Who's most to blame, and who's on the chopping block
Hmm.
with the Giants?
Uh, I think it's the GM, Joe Schoen. I think he's the main
Mhm.
guy. I think if they don't at least get, to an even record, I think he's the one to go because it's out there for everybody to know who let Barkley go. He didn't have concerns. He thought he had something in Singletary. I think it's Singletary that's there. Singletary's been injured,
Yep.
you know. They've had
Hmm.
their rookie stepping up. So, and then Dabble, well, I don't even know if he knows how to coach this year. Like, what is this team doing?
Yep.
They have Malik Neighbors, one of the best young wide receivers, and you know, I think paying Daniel Jones, I know he did so well, but it was a mistake. I think it should have gone to Barkley. You know, he could have picked up Joe Flacco for a lot cheaper, and look what he has done. He could do a lot with that roster right there with Saquon as well. So I think it's a GM. I think he's gonna go this year if they do really badly and poorly because, like I said, it's out there. Hard Knocks recorded everything. The owner said he wasn't going to be able to sleep if Saquon went to the Eagles. He's probably hasn't slept since that game and probably won't sleep the rest of the week.
For sure. I completely agree with you. I think it's the GM to go, but I think Dable will follow. I think both
Hmm.
are out after this year if it doesn't go much better. And, I kind of have, I don't know if this is necessarily a hot take, but certainly one that might border one. And I'll explain why. But I think Belichick at this point should be the next coach of the New York Giants. He prefaced two really good things this past week when he went on, on air and kind of spoke about, NFL games.
Hmm.
And he talked about an O lineman that was playing out of position and would do a lot better if he was in the correct position. Second
Hmm.
to that, he prefaced this whole Saquon situation, just pay the dude a couple more mil for what he was asking. He's
Hmm.
certainly worth it. He's performed immensely. And you
Hmm.
pair him with a new player like the skill that Neighbors has.
Hmm.
Yeah. I just and it relieves a guy who's already struggling with Daniel Jones to have such a
Hmm.
talented running back right next to you.
Hmm.
Just fucking do it. Like I don't know why they
Hmm.
fucking worked around all of this and just didn't just re-sign him. And
Yeah.
then out of all things, the owner probably lost more sleep with seeing him go to a rival, and then
Hmm.
this week watching him run all over and be the entire
Yeah.
Eagles offense this past week. Um, Single-handedly beat them because Hertz was meh.
Yeah. Hmm.
But that's all he had to do. It was
Hmm.
just let Saquon run. So I don't know. I think you fire both.
Hmm.
Because you mentioned it. Dable, I just forgot how to coach. I don't know. Maybe some coordinators or coaches
Hmm.
just need to be coordinators. Um,
Hmm.
Maybe that's just the best fit for him. And I don't know. Belichick steps in, get a right quarterback in there, start drafting a running game, get some supporting
Hmm.
wide receivers and a better defense.
Yeah.
I I guess that's not asking for too much. I might as well just mention
No,
absolutely everything, but
but
you can turn around.
yeah, yeah, and you have a good point. Like, if they don't make it, if they don't start playing well, they don't start producing, make it a lost season. I think they still have their first round draft pick. There's some pretty good QBs, young QBs out in
Yep.
this draft that could help a lot. Like, yeah, don't have that running back, but their young running back. He's showing up, he's doing well, so he could be
Yep.
that little, bright star. But you mentioned coach. I think Belichick's going to be the hot commodity this next offseason. I think a lot of teams that are struggling with coaching and they have a solid core team, they're going to look at Belichick because he has a proven track record. He has Super Bowls, he has developed players. Um, and yeah, I think Giants would be a good place for him. I think you mentioned, what was it, the Eagles possibly. I've been
Mhm.
hearing with Tom Brady being part owner of the Raiders might be another spot for him. You know, I think it is a hot take. Like it's like where is Belichick going this week after watching these teams play? And this week the
Yep.
Giants seem like the best fit for, a good place for Belichick to go and, make an impact soon and quick.
Absolutely. Yeah. And it's a perfect place. I know he's not any spring chicken at this
Hmm.
point, but a good place for him to develop and start from scratch and kind of build around what he has. I mean, Neighbors, if say he is there next year, that's another year under his belt, and
Hmm.
just kind of develop around him and Tracy, the running back. I feel like he could be honestly a real talent. He's really stepped up big when
Hmm.
Singletary's been out. And as you mentioned, there's some decent quarterbacks out there.
Hmm.
Shadir Sanders, if the Giants get a high enough pick,
Hmm.
he could be up there. And, with his arm talent, and you pair him with a guy like Belichick, look what he
Hmm.
did with Brady, a late draft
Yeah.
pick, but obviously this one would be a little bit more up. But
Hmm.
I don't know. The possibilities are certainly there. And I'm interested to see. NFC East is always a big topic because there's so many big name teams there.
Hmm.
But another team on the East Coast, I know we certainly wanted to talk about who's struggling, Miami Dolphins.
Hmm.
And we saw some clips today of Tua, and he was fielding some questions from reporters, about, hey, are you going to wear the new helmet?
The
I
Guardian
forget the
cap.
name of it. That's the Guardian cap.
Hmm.
This year, he said no. Um, we were kind of dishing some clips back and forth today, John. What's
Hmm.
your feeling on Tua coming back? Is it worth it? And do you feel like he or the NFL or the Dolphins organization should take precaution with him
Hmm.
coming back?
Um, I, you know, I think it's good for the Dolphins. I think we've seen them play. They're struggling without Tua. They aren't, well, Waddle, Hill, nothing this last week. No touches. Like you can't see that with your two best wide receivers. From his press conference, he seems good. He seems like, you know, I don't think we know too much about what's really going on with these concussions, what's going on with him. I think we've just seen it. We've seen it happen so much, and we have a concern. You know, I think if I was a GM, coach, anything, I'd be like, this is the last like shot for Tua, in my mind. If Tua gets another concussion, gets another hit where, he goes down the way he has been going down, I don't think any team will ever even consider resigning him. And I know Tua said today, he loves this game, he'd die for this game. I'm sorry, but I don't think I would, especially with having a family. Like, I understand you have a passion for this game. This is something you've lived, breathed for so long since you were a kid. But when you have a family, there's a lot more to it. We've seen what these CTEs, these concussions could cause. Look, you mentioned it, Antonio Brown, great player, but his concussions, look at him now. It's a little sad to see with some of these players. So I wouldn't want that from Tua because he's a genuine great guy, from all his, interviews. But I see why he wants to come back. He loves the game. I see why the Dolphins need him because Dolphins suck without him. But I think one more incident like that, I think, in my opinion, I think he should be out of the NFL just for his own safety. It's almost like in boxing. You can't let a fighter get so many headshots because we've seen what some of these fighters develop in a few years after taking so much, and it's not worth it for someone's health. No amount of money would is going to pay for it. I know he is one of the highest paying QBs, but like enjoy that money. Don't have it go all to your health because you just want to continue playing. What do you think, Tim?
For sure. Yeah. And I completely agree. It's you have to take extreme precaution with anything involving your brain. I mean,
Hmm.
it's the most important vital organ next to your
Hmm.
heart. And you mentioned fighters, and I saw a clip this past week of I forget his name. He's kind of turned comedian. He has a podcast too, but he referenced a fighter. He was a heavyweight back in the day, and he took just such a pounding, of course, during his fighting
Hmm.
career, and he has a degree in engineering. And I guess like he's lost his job. I
Hmm.
think he became homeless at one point, and just from forgetting, things
Hmm.
that he learned and not able to perform at his
Yeah.
profession outside of fighting. and it's serious. There's a lot of former NFL players.
Mm,
We've all heard stories of I forget which player it was, but he'll go out to the grocery store and he'll forget how to get home.
hmm.
It's
Yeah.
it's insane, and I maybe it's something that comes and goes as far as what happens with your
Hmm.
brain, but it's something that needs to be taken extremely serious, and the NFL, I think, is kind of behind on it, to be
Hmm.
honest. But they have things like the Guardian cap, and if he's refusing the Guardian cap, at least he's coming forward and speaking for
Hmm.
himself, and the Dolphins aren't doing that for him. I think that's a positive note, but I don't know. I think we kind of
Hmm.
referenced it earlier. I mentioned it. There's a certain point where you can't rule out something as
Hmm.
scary as death on a
Yeah.
field. We almost saw it with Damar Hamlin, but
Hmm.
that's a different type of injury, of course. But
Hmm.
um, say he gets hit in the head again, and he seizes, or he has that he just goes brain dead from just the
Hmm.
trauma. He's already gone into guarding positions, and
Yeah.
his hands go into those awkward positions, and
Hmm.
I don't know. You can't rule out anything. And if that happened in modern day with all the media that's out there, it would
Hmm.
spark such a huge, I don't know,
Hmm.
just I guess news report. And
Yeah.
it's kind of scary to think about. And I think that's
Hmm.
something that people will always think of. A reference for it, we all have play fantasy football.
Hmm.
A guy like Christian McCaffrey, you invest so much in him in the first
Yeah.
round. I always hold my breath a little bit when he's running the ball.
Yeah.
It's like he's had a history of injuries, but
Hmm.
thankfully it's nothing, head related.
Hmm.
It's soft tissue injuries, things
Yeah.
like that. But he gets the running. It's things that you hold your breath. I feel like with Tua, I'd hold my breath every single time
Hmm.
because you don't know what play is going to happen. It takes one hit, and that could be it.
Yeah.
But yeah, hey, if he wants to go for it, this is his
Hmm.
passion, obviously. He just signed a massive contract, and I
Hmm.
think he's proven his worth with
Yeah.
how much the Dolphins miss him currently.
Hmm.
I don't know. But I agree with you, John. Long story short, it's a scary situation, but at least he's speaking for himself.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you think like Tua coming back and we sort of talked about it like Deshaun Watson not wanting to go for it on fourth down, probably not wanting to do like QB sneaks. Do you think the Dolphins are going to play it very safe with him? And, what does that say about like the team game? Like, I know Tua's probably going to be like, I want to go for it. I want to, make that run. But, you know, I like if I was a coach, I'd be like, I don't even want to risk that Tua because we've seen what happened. Sometimes it's not even a hard hit. You just take a bad fall and it gets you out. Like, that's where I'm sort of like the investment. Like, yes, we don't really know what's going on. I think he's probably has seen professionals and they've told him the pros and cons of playing again and what the risks are. But like I said, just from what we've seen, I just don't think it's a great idea. But I don't know. What are your thoughts? Like, do you think they're going to play him a lot safer? They aren't even going to let him run. Like, even if he has an open field, like, do you want to see him run? I think once you see him running, you're gonna get nervous because you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, the
Mhm.
NFL is such a fast-paced game. Anything could
Mhm.
happen, as you mentioned. It could be a wide open field, and God forbid, a late hit comes in, he
Mhm.
knocks his head back, and he's not, protecting, his head hitting the
Mhm.
turf. Anything can happen. It's a
Mhm.
rough sport. I think we all know that. And the only positive note I can think of is they have a lot of talent speed wise on that team that could perform with,
Mhm.
yak yardage, yards
Mhm.
after catch. You have Tyreek, you have Waddle, you have A-Chain, and you have
Mhm.
Mostert. Those speed demons that they are, they catch the ball. You could do,
Mhm.
quick release throws, and use that to your I guess your benefit. But
Mhm.
I don't know. It's still a risk.
Mhm.
I don't know how soon you even bring him back. I don't know how soon. I haven't seen recent reports on when they're expecting him back. I know
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
IR time has already passed and he's eligible, but I don't know, man. How do you feel about it? Like, what kind of play calls do you feel like they would draw up for him? Do you
I
think
I
that the risk from the Dolphins is worth it?
I I think they're gonna sort of risk it. Like I say, I think they developed everything around him. You could see that they're missing him. They aren't winning. They aren't producing. But like you mentioned, I think it's gonna all be quick slants, quick throws. They're not gonna really risk him running, but like you mentioned, it's a quick game. These defenses know they catch on quick during the game and they'll be able to shut some of these players down. So, you know, I know the coaching staff probably doesn't want him to risk himself, but like Tua saying, this is a game. He loves this game. He might risk himself. And like I said, I think that's where my concern comes. It's like, man, like I don't want you to because first your own health. Like for me, it's about winning Super Bowls. It's about winning games if I was a coach, but the next thing for me, it's like you're a human being. It's the health. He has a family. That's what I think I'm concerned about more. But it's a decision he's making. He's an adult, and like you mentioned, he's making these decisions. It's not the Dolphins. Nobody's telling him to play or not wear the Guardian cap. He's deciding to. So,
I guess on a positive note, he has the confidence to move forward with
hmm
it, and he's speaking for himself as we've been talking about. And God bless him. He's
hmm
following a passion. And I sincerely hope nothing bad happens,
hmm
and he can write off the rest of his career and right into the sunset. But
yeah,
interesting stuff there, and certainly I think at this point we can move forward to a profession where maybe there's not quite so much head trauma.
hmm
Um, with the NBA. It's coming back
yeah,
tomorrow, I think
yeah.
is opening
Tomorrow,
night.
we got two
And
games.
I know we're both super excited. I think the Knicks are playing. I think I
hmm
saw a Brunson bet already out there.
Yeah.
It's fun getting back in the flow. But to start with, let's talk about our teams a little bit here,
hmm
John.
Yeah. My team, the Clippers. I, I don't know what to think about him. We're in that new Intuit Dome. All I will say about that stadium, I went there 2 weeks ago, saw Weezer. Great, great stadium. Really like
Oh,
that new technology of just like the no tickets, the verifying through like your face. Very cool. Stadium as well. Like it seems like a smaller venue, but it seems like any seat's a great view. You feel like you're on the court. For that concert, we felt like we were really close when we weren't. So, but overall, the Clippers, Kawhi is out. So, surprise, not surprised. He's always been out a lot. Like I said, we don't have Paul George. Harden's going to be the guy we rely on. I think we have a solid team to make it to the playoffs if Kawhi could come back, and I think we can make a solid run if Kawhi stays healthy, but not really holding my breath. We didn't do too much in the offseason. There's this Western Conference. Dallas looks like one of the teams to beat. They got your guy, Klay Thompson. Is that the missing piece for them?
ah,
Golden State, I think, with Curry, it's always a team to, be careful with. Utah, still, there's the Nuggets, Jokic still there. Like, there's a lot of teams to get through in the Western Conference. So I hope we do well. I really do, but not really holding my breath that we're going to win it this year because there's just so much competition, and the big X factor for us will be Kawhi Leonard. What about your Warriors, Tim?
for sure. But real quick before I
hmm
reference my Warriors, Steve Ballmer, he's a known toilet guy. Uh, how was your first experience at Intuit Dome? And was the restroom situation legit? Like, is it easy to find? And is there plenty of them where you're not waiting?
Uh,
People want
like I
to
say,
know.
it was a concert, so they were easy to find. I would say they're a lot nicer than other stadiums. They weren't bad. I only used a
Oh,
urinal. I didn't
okay.
use the toilet. Didn't
Sure.
have to drop anything,
Uh-huh.
during the concert. But
Good
overall,
news.
it was good. The one thing I will say, the food there, amazing food. You talk about the Giants
Oh,
having great food. We
yep.
had these birria burgers. So it's a hamburger patty and then
Oh,
birria with like a mini tostada like in the
oh,
middle.
God.
The
Yeah.
like we were like iffy about it. Like we were just hungry and like, let's just try it. Amazing. Like great food.
Wow.
And then we got some chicken tenders. Vera says those are the best chicken tenders she's ever had. And I'm like, really? So
Wow.
Like I say, food there, I think it's gonna be one of the top places. We'll see how it goes, during the season, but um, really good. But yeah, toilet situation, not bad, clean as of right now, but still new.
Excellent, because a big deal for Steve Ballmer this
Yeah.
offseason was the amount of toilets that are in into a dome. So,
Yeah.
hey, props to him if that situation's great.
Hmm.
Um, as far as my Warriors go, talk about another great arena. Chase Center
Hmm.
is phenomenal. Went to a game there a couple seasons ago. Hope to go back to maybe a few this year, for
Hmm.
sure. And most recently went to Monster Jam there, but just going inside and just walking around, it's
Hmm.
just such a beautiful arena. The seating situation is phenomenal. There's no bad view in there. Oracle produced a little bit more noise in my opinion.
Hmm.
You kind of get a lot of the tech industry in there, so the
Hmm.
noise is kind of dissipated a little
Yeah.
bit. But nonetheless, phenomenal arena. Love the location. A lot of cool restaurants around, and
Hmm.
they've kind of made like a nice little center there. But getting to the roster, I feel a lot better about this roster than I did last year, and here's why.
Okay.
You have Steph coming back. You have another
Hmm.
year of Kaminga. I think Kaminga is going to really step
Yeah.
up. Draymond, cross our fingers, he's not kicking any nuts this year. Uh,
Yeah.
and but it's not Splash Bros any longer, John.
Hmm.
It's Splash Buddies. Buddy
Oh,
Healed coming
oh.
out. I mean, the dude's hitting step back, one-legged three-pointers. The dude's
Hmm.
feeling it. The dude's always been able to hit a three, but now that he's with Steph, I think that confidence is just
Hmm.
going to pour out of him, and he's going to have a
Yeah.
phenomenal year. I think he's going to have the best year of his career. And we have Wiggins, who, he's had some injuries. Thoughts and prayers with him, certainly with the situation with his dad, and I think that's
Hmm.
become evident as he's had those absences over the last couple seasons, and
Hmm.
it's understandable. Family always comes first. So thoughts and prayers with
Hmm.
Wiggins, but you know, I hope his mind's in a great place and he's feeling healthy and everything
Hmm.
because we need him. That championship run we had a couple years back, he's such a pivotal part. If we can get that side of Wiggins again, I
Yeah.
think we're looking great. Kyle Anderson is a really good one. He brings some height to our team. He's
Hmm.
coming back to the Bay. He's a Cal grad, and he was a great like bench six-man player for
Hmm.
the Wolves this past season. And height is something that we've certainly needed and we've missed a lot of. And I hope Kevon Looney kind of has a little bit of a better season. He was kind of rough last year.
Hmm.
But Quentin Post,
Hmm.
hopefully playing at the post well. He's a seven
Hmm.
footer, but I think he can shoot a three. He's our draft pick this year. I have
Okay.
high hopes for him. We just paid Moody. Moody just got a 3 year, I think $39 million contract. I want to say that was today that he got that.
Hmm.
So props to him. I'm certainly happy that we paid him because I remember watching him at Arkansas and how dominant he was
Hmm.
there as a guard, and having him back again. And he's really stepped up and performed a lot last year. So if we stay healthy and all goes well, and I'm forgetting about, of course, the Anthony Melton, who was a huge signing this past
Hmm.
year. He's going to be a good replacement for Clay. I think that we have a super legit team, and I'm,
Hmm.
I'm I'm super stoked for it. And I think that we are going to be a force in the West. I think that
Hmm.
Clay's kind of referenced it too. Maybe just the change of environment is good for him. And
Hmm.
I think that there's a lot of mental struggles that necessarily you don't have anybody to blame for. I think
Hmm.
that just the back-to-back season-ending injuries and the headspace he
Yeah.
was in was really rough for him, and I get that. I feel like we're obviously partnering up with a company that preferences and really just goes for referencing the importance of mental health, and I
Hmm.
feel like that's maybe a big part of Clay.
Hmm.
So I wish nothing but the best for him with the Mavs,
Hmm.
and I think he's going to be great with them. I
Hmm.
hope we don't see him in the playoffs, but I um I have big hopes for my Warriors. I think we're
Yeah.
going to do pretty good, John.
No, yeah, I think the Warriors are always a team to reckon with. I think, yeah, the Buddy Hield, he was always like a big piece of a lot of teams. Now having Steph,
Hmm.
having Draymond to take some of that pressure away, I think could really help. him develop. And yeah, I could see him having a great season this year. And that's one of those dark horse teams that could come out of the West. Um, Prediction wise, who do you have, coming out of the West? Who do you have coming out of the East, or in who do have winning it all?
For sure. God, it's tough. I will go. I'm gonna go Warriors selfishly,
Okay.
because I do feel better about this roster,
Hmm.
and I think Steph is literally like a LeBron. I think he makes all the difference in the world for a team, and I think he can carry a team that far. He's just generational. I think we all know that. So I'll
Hmm.
take Warriors in the West. In the East, I don't know that Carl Anthony Towns move for the Knicks was the best deal, to be honest
Hmm.
with you. I'm not really feeling it. I feel like they should have kept Dante there and kept the Villanova vibes.
Yeah.
But they didn't. And I'm probably going to take the Celtics again. I think
Celtics.
that it'll be Warriors Celtics rematch. I think that the Warriors will prevail. I think we're going to win it. And that's I'll take Warriors in six.
Or is
And
it?
if that falls, if that literally comes true, we will clip this and go
Yeah.
back to it. How about you, John?
It's a tough one. Like I said, I want to say the Clippers, but I'm gonna be a real fan. I'm not gonna say it's our year, like some of these other teams that always say it's their year. Uh,
Mhm.
I I like the Warriors. I don't think it's gonna be the Warriors. I like
Mhm.
the Nuggets. I think they have a good chance. Um, but I think Dallas, if they stay healthy, I think that's the team to beat. I think they'll make it again, and I think it'll be a rematch. Dallas Celtics. Because yeah, Knicks, I think I don't like the move for Cat. I don't I yeah, I think they should have stuck with what they had. And then it's just a coaching. I just don't like the coaching in the Knicks. I like the team. I want to see them win. I think it's a pretty fun team to watch, but I don't think they'll be able to do it. I think it's going to be the Celtics again. They don't have Porzingis, but I think Porzingis only made a difference for a few games. They have their core players, but I have Dallas, Boston, with Boston winning it in seven. So back to
Okay.
back.
I like it. Yeah. No, no, I
Hmm.
think that's a legit pick. Yeah,
Yeah.
Dallas, the Wolves and
Hmm.
Nuggets, Warriors, I feel like are all
Yeah.
I think I could definitely see that. I think that's a great
Hmm.
prediction. And you heard it here. John is not a Tibbs fan.
Hmm.
So Thibodeau,
No,
that
I, I
not a
I feel
fan.
like Thibodeau ruined Derrick Rose's career. Straight up. Derrick
Mm.
Rose was he was a
Oh,
phenomenal player, and I think the way
yes, he was.
Tibbs coached, I think it ruined Derrick Rose. And always enjoyed his
Yep.
game. He was great. I think he could have taken the Bulls back to the promised land, since MJ, but I just don't think Tibbs is that type of coach. Yeah, he wins games, but
Hmm.
I don't think his style really helps win the championships. And you know, hopefully he proves me wrong. Hopefully the Knicks do make it and the Knicks could win it, but that's just my opinion on Tibbs.
Yeah, no, super valid. I think when the Knicks are in it, I think that a lot of America's in it because
Hmm.
I think that's just a very it's kind of like a very Dallas Cowboys type
Hmm.
team.
It
It's
is.
just, Lakers, Knicks, you're
Hmm.
just kind of hyper focused on them. Um, so we'll see. I think that they're going to be deep in the playoffs though with the
Hmm.
the addition of Michael Bridges. I
Hmm.
think that team looks super
Yeah.
solid though. But clearly John and I agree. Cat wasn't really
No.
the move.
I,
I don't
I,
see
I
it.
yeah, I don't think they needed it now. I think they should have played
No.
it out, waited till the trade deadline. If they were missing that cat type player, go for that trade. But there could have been other teams that might have really, let someone go for a lot cheaper price, where you could have kept, your core team. So that's my thoughts, but I know they're playing to win now. Brunson, I like watching him play, so we'll see.
For sure. Yeah, no, in speaking of you know, I guess players, coaches who could dictate another player's career.
Hmm.
Let's go into a little bit of some Bronny talk here, John. Bronny James, certainly kind of put up a little bit of a
Hmm.
roller coaster with he had a good performance his last game,
Hmm.
but um, uh, you have such a big name of LeBron James's son, same
Hmm.
team. I think that's kind of fascinating. We've seen it with Griffey, and some other players in the
Hmm.
past. So with Bronny all together, how are you feeling as far as him in general? Do you feel like he's going to be a performer? Do you think that he will really have a role on the Lakers this year? Um, yeah, just let me know your opinion, John. I'm kind of curious.
Uh, um, I truly think Bronny's not ready for the NBA. We didn't see it in college. He wasn't one of those top college players. Like, you know, we have to call it out. There's some nepotism here because of who his dad is, LeBron James. He's player, coach,
Yep.
GM. He's everything on the Lakers. Let's not say it isn't true because we know it is true. I think everybody knows LeBron wants something, LeBron says something, he'll tell Rich Paul. Rich Paul makes it happen. So I truly don't think Bronny's ready. His role, the first few games, they're gonna play him because that's what everybody wants to watch. Father son playing in the NBA at the highest level, of professional basketball. Um, but I don't think he's ready. I think he's gonna get moved to the G League. And I think I've said it before to you, not during the pods or anything, but I think once LeBron retires from the NBA, Bronny's gonna go with him. I don't think he'll make it in the NBA if they don't send him to the G League and let him develop. I think he has a lot of potential, but has so much work to do, and the G League isn't going to be easy. G League's full of these players trying to make the roster and they play hard, so he's going to have to show a lot. I just don't think he's ready. That's my thoughts. Laker fans may hate me. Not a Laker fan, so don't really care. Hate.
Yeah, for sure.
Hmm.
I completely agree. You know, a funny, like, I don't know, this could be a meme. I'm sure there is some out there already,
Hmm.
but we all saw the stat line for, Bronny James's last game against the Warriors. I think he
Hmm.
put up like 17 points, 8 boards, a few assists.
Hmm.
It was a pretty good stat line game for Bronny compared to
Hmm.
the rest of his preseason performances. But then, after that performance, they panned to the final score, which was 132 to 74. Again, I know it's preseason, but they got the shit kicked out of them, and everybody's making a big deal out of Bronny's performance. So,
Hmm.
um, I just, I yeah, I think his career in the NBA, unless he can like really leech off of his
Hmm.
dad's talent and learn from him a ton in the next, God, maybe 2, 3 seasons is all
Hmm.
LeBron has left. I think it is an end to it, and maybe we just see what
Hmm.
LeBron's other son has. His
Yeah.
other son has a little bit more height. Maybe that's a little bit more beneficial for him. Um, but yeah, I don't know, because when LeBron retires, is that kind of the falling of the Lakers in a way?
I,
I mean, you have AD, but AD I don't think is really going to win a lot alone.
yeah.
Dude hardly plays,
Hmm.
so
Yeah, his
I
age
don't
is up
know.
there for AD. They have some young talent, but I don't think they have the talent to take them all the way. I think they still have some future draft picks, so I think as long as they're not dealing them for some dumb trades, they have a future. It's going to be a rebuild year. I think Palinka has to go too because that's another LeBron James guy.
Yeah.
Um, but there has to be a lot of changes for the Lakers. I think one question, Tim, if the Lakers are doing well, but Bronny's not performing and they need to bring in another player, do you think that they will send him down to the G League or cut him? Or do you think because he's LeBron James' son, they're going to deal with him and cut someone else who might make more of a difference?
Oof. And this is kind of where I preference like how much playing time do we think he's actually going to
Hmm.
get? Because if he's getting like no playing time, you look at a player like at the end of the bench with like Max Christie, for
Hmm.
example. I think that dude brings so much more value to that team than, a guy like Bronny does.
Hmm.
And what a difference between Dalton Connect is
Hmm.
versus Bronny is. Connect just he went on a tear like
Yeah, he
a
did.
game recently. The dude was he's legit. I think he
Hmm.
proved that at Tennessee. But I uh I think you send him down. I think you just say I know LeBron dictates absolutely everything in the NBA these
Hmm.
days, but I don't know. Logically, you send him down and
Hmm.
then you try to get somebody with a little bit more value and bring him up.
Yeah.
And if the Lakers are serious
Hmm.
about how deep they go in the playoffs this year, I know they performed well last year. You can't take the risks of, LeBron and Bronny just pairing up all year.
Hmm.
I think you got to make that difference. What do you think,
Yeah.
John?
I think they have to. I think they need to make that decision and not let LeBron sort of dictate it if he is dictating it. Because like I say, the Lakers, they have a solid roster. I think they can make a play, like you mentioned with Steph. LeBron's one of those game changers that if he's on your team, you can make the finals every single year. There's no doubt about it. No matter what the pieces you have around you. And like I said, he has AD, he has Connect, there's a lot of great players on the Lakers roster. So I think if it comes down to it, the Lakers have to make that tough choice, send him down to the G League, let him develop. I'm just curious if it would happen because, like I say, we hear the stories. LeBron runs the organization, so is LeBron going to want that? Does he want that for his legacy? So we'll see. I'm very interested to see. They got their first game tomorrow, so we'll see. You know what they'll do. I I wanted to make a prediction, but I don't think it'll happen. But I think it'd be cool. And who knows? LeBron and Bronny, they're gonna start the game together. And they're gonna play Bronny 1 minute and then sub him out quickly, you know? Because how do you think that would make news, Lakers? LeBron Bronny starting game one of the season, first father-son duo to start, for a team. Like it would be headlines, it'd be great for the pictures, publicity and then just sub him out after the first 5 minutes to that first time out, you know. But hey, it's just throwing that out
Yeah,
there.
I like it, John. I mean, why not, right? At that point,
Mhm.
I feel like after that though, it's like, all right, Bronny, you got your minute.
Yeah.
Here's your G
Yeah.
League pass.
Yeah.
Just
That's the way
send
I
them
feel like
on
it should
down.
be. Like I
Yeah.
say, if I was in
Yeah.
Rob Pelinka's shoes, like I would be like, I understand, LeBron, like we did this for you. We spent a round draft pick on your son. Let's put him in to start with you, play 5 minutes, and then we're gonna take him out and play the game to win the game, not for publicity. You have the pictures, you could frame that up, blow it up, put it in your house, whatever. And now let's send him to G League, have him develop. Let's have him learn. And then once he's ready, let's bring him back up. Have him come up every now and then, see how he's developed. But like I said, that's me, you know, but I we'll see. But I just thought that
Yeah.
right now is like that'd be, the hot take. If it happens, I'm gonna clip this. We're recording this on Monday, the day before the NBA season starts. So I called it here first. So don't take it Stephen A, all these other networks. Give credit where credit's due.
For sure. Hey, if that comes true, we got to do that like panning to your face and start cracking up, theme, John.
Yeah.
I mean, um, that kind of develops into a little bit of a horror film if you created that
Yeah,
prediction. I think people are going to call you a wizard, John.
totally.
And I know that's going to reference our next category topic here, John.
Mm.
But real quick, shout out to the New York Liberty.
Hmm.
WNBA champions, real
Yes.
quick. And shout out Sabrina Ionescu. She
Hmm.
went to the high school where I grew up in Orinda,
Okay.
Mariwani High School. And now she has a WNBA championship.
Hmm.
So shout out to her and the rest of the Liberty.
Hmm.
Congratulations on winning the championship. I know that's their first one, I think, of the franchise.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
big win over, I think it was the Minnesota Lynx. So
Hmm.
good for them. WNBA is certainly on the up and up, and that's really cool to see. And
Hmm.
there's going to be the Golden State Valkyrie this upcoming
Yeah,
season,
I
so
saw
we're going to
that.
get a
Hmm.
WNBA team up here, and pretty cool. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I was talking with Jen about that the other
Hmm.
day. So, because we
Yeah,
saw some advertisements last time we were at Chase as well, so pretty
nice.
cool.
Hmm.
Happy to see it, and how much that league has developed.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, speaking of horror films, if you predict that correctly, that's going to be pretty
Hmm.
crazy. And maybe we should start getting a script going, John. But with you being a wizard.
Yes.
But horror films, we're in October. I know next
Hmm.
week we have some fun plans up ahead
Hmm.
with a guest again. But let's dive into some movies.
Hmm.
What if you want to start us off here, John? What are
Yeah.
some of your favorites that you like to
Uh,
watch, this month or year round for horror films?
there's a lot of great horror movies. I was talking to one of the people I work with at my job and sort of horror and how I enjoy watching it. I enjoy getting scared. I hate getting scared too, but just that rush, that adrenaline rush you get watching the horror movies, I enjoy a lot. And some of the movies I always like to watch during this month, Halloween, classic, Michael Myers, the old one with Jamie Lee Curtis. Always a good one. The new ones have been decent. I won't say they're the best, but they've been good to watch. Aliens, for some reason, I enjoy watching a lot. That's another, I somewhat horror suspense. And then the ones that I've liked a lot is Insidious. You know, that one, just the music, the score, like it's just freaky, So those I would say are some of my go-to horror movies I like to watch. One I want to shout out, it's one I watched long ago. I was graduated high school, went to college, went to Santa Barbara City College for a year, and with my roommate at the time, we rented when Blockbuster was still around too. We rented
Hey.
High Tension. So it's a French horror movie. Um, very gory, very a little disturbing to watch, but a little synopsis of it, this one French student goes with her friend to her family's, house out in the middle of nowhere, and there's like this one person following them in a van, so this guy goes to the house and they, starts killing everybody. Um, and long story short, there's a big plot twist at the end. Don't want to spoil it, I'll tell you later, Tim, if you want to find out, but for anybody that wants to watch it,
Mhm.
interesting plot twist. Like I say, not the best horror movie, but I really enjoyed it. It's one I enjoy watching. I had to go find the movie. I'm not gonna say how I got it because Blockbuster's not around and I don't want them getting mad at me, but it has to do with Blockbuster. You know, who knows if
They'll
that
come
one
for
just
you.
yeah, they'll come for you. So, but it is a movie I have in my collection that I enjoy watching. So that's some of the horror I movies I like. What about you, Tim? Any go-to horror movies you watched during this month?
Yeah, so I'll certainly preface this that before I met my wife Jen in high school,
Hmm.
I was never into scary movies. I was big comedy fan, happy, I wasn't like Hallmark happy. I thought those were super cheesy, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong, but like, I was more of a comedy guy. But as I met her and I know that, Jen and your family all together, John, are just, you guys are really into it. And
Hmm.
it really brought out like this. I'm like you, I hate getting freaked out by movies,
Yeah.
but the rush is like, it's kind of like you put your hands over your eyes, but you just keep
Hmm.
like a finger open, you can
Yeah.
still see. That's literally how I
Mm.
feel a lot of times. And there's some classics like Paranormal Activity that was
Hmm.
obviously became a big series and
Yes.
was the first of its time with low budget films and
Hmm.
they kind of created this type of scene that made something that seems real come to life, with the home
Hmm.
recording kind of feel to things, and they did a phenomenal job with
Yeah.
that. We talked about it last week. A big fan of As Above, So Below. That's like
Hmm.
first person recording. I know a lot of people don't like that, but I absolutely love that film. It
Hmm.
was suspenseful, and I think that um, I wouldn't call myself like overly religious, but I
Hmm.
practice religion here and there, and anything that includes things like the devil, I
Yeah.
tend to believe in, and obviously
Hmm.
that film definitely referenced it. So it becomes a little bit more real and a little bit more scary in my opinion. Um, The Exorcism kind of falls into
Hmm.
that too. That's an instant classic. If I'm in a scary, looking place or I'm alone in a dark room, it feels,
Hmm.
I think of that girl spider walking down the
Yeah.
stairs. This is there's some scenes you can't unsee when it comes to
No,
horror
you
films.
can't.
And I'm so another one is too. I know you referenced Insidious, John.
Hmm.
I think Sinister and Conjuring might be all
Hmm.
from similar directors or
Hmm.
producers. I maybe don't quote me on that, but The Conjuring for one is kind of a film that I feel like kind of I don't know, seemed overly realistic. It was based
Hmm.
off of true events. And, you go into, artifact finding as far as, what is a possessed item.
Hmm.
And that brought a whole ton to, my mind in general and kind of
Yeah.
researching into the backstory of those things. I know a lot of people these days, John, if we become big, we might have to do this one day. I don't know. But a lot of people visit the Conjuring house and you can rent it out for a night and
Hmm.
stay there for the night and people record it. And I don't know if I could do
Uh,
it, but hey, that for the content,
yeah,
maybe one
yeah,
day. You never
maybe
know.
one day I'm gonna have to wear a bunch of crosses. I might have to bring like a
Oh God,
priest,
Sage.
someone to be with us. Not, I don't think I'll do overnight. I
Nope.
might just do a quick 10-minute visit. All right, not touch anything. I'm gonna walk around like this,
Yeah.
you know, not
Yeah,
touching
for
anything.
sure. I feel like I'd be the same way, man. Like I don't even want to stare in the wrong corner of that
No.
house. Um, but with the Conjuring altogether, Jen and I we did that One Iota experience online. I don't know if you've ever looked into what One Iota is, John, but
Mm-mm.
it's basically free. It's free tickets. I think it's still around because I get emails from them all the time.
Hmm.
Basically, you become an extra or you become a audience for something.
Hmm.
You could go on One Iota and then you become the audience for a talk show. I
Okay.
think James Corden back in the day was there, maybe Ellen
Mm.
as well. But Jen and I did a premiere on the Hollywood Studios backlot of Conjuring 2 when it first came
Okay.
out. And we were walked through all of the backlots and
Hmm.
where they film all these movies, and we were brought into a film room and we sat in a theater with a bunch of producers and makers of the
Hmm.
movies, and they wanted a review at the end, but tickets were free and we just had to be there on time. And we were able to watch the movie in full ahead of when it was released, and I thought that
Nice.
experience in general was really, really cool. So I recommend shout out One
Hmm.
Iota. It's a free experience as long as you have the time to go there and wait in
Hmm.
line. It's worth it.
Okay.
But the Conjuring series was great. I feel
Hmm.
like it was scary. It was, it referenced a point in time. So it was a really fun one. I had a good time with that.
Nice.
How about you, John? I'm sorry.
Um,
Ariel's making some noise.
no, yeah, I enjoy those movies. I think the horror movies that are sort of related to true events, it freaks me out,
Mhm.
but it's also so interesting because it's like, man, what they create now, especially with like the production of movies, how they make movies, like the CGI, AI, you could say. These movies looks just so real and like I'm just like, man, the creative minds, like it's either you're just that creative or these are real, true life experiences that have happened and we just are being told they're fake, but they're real. So I'm just like, that's what I enjoy about the horror movies, um, and those type of things. But yeah, that one iota thing seems pretty cool. That'd be a cool experience to have. Go to movie premiere.
Yeah, no, it was a blast.
Hmm.
We had a really good time with it, and I mean, you get to see a film ahead of time and
Hmm.
kind of
Yeah.
talk about it. So super cool, and being back there where they film it all, and leading into that, with a lot of these movies all
Hmm.
together, we always put ourselves into those situations,
Hmm.
John. Let's play, a little game that you and I have kind of talked about, and a topic that you went into depth on. Let's kind of discuss a couple movies, and let's play a little bit of a survival game here.
Yeah. Yeah, we could do that. One movie that comes to mind and sort of see what your thoughts are of survival. A Quiet Place. How do you think you'd survive in A Quiet Place universe, Tim?
I think that one would be like would be brutal. Obviously in the movie they walk on sand, they
Hmm.
create a path and I think that my heart would be pounding. I might die of a heart attack prior to actually being killed by one of those
By one
beings.
of those monsters.
Um, yeah, for sure. And it just feels like at that point, there's no way out. There's certain movies it feels like you can escape from, or
Hmm.
at least try to have some hope of escaping. But when it comes to movies like that and it's worldwide, like how far do you think you can actually go? How serious is the
Hmm.
situation? Communications cut, like it's a scary situation altogether.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes that film fascinating.
Hmm.
Overall, I think I think I could do good, but I would be, like I said, I would be a nervous wreck. You and I both have young children, and they
Hmm.
wouldn't understand,
Yeah.
how quiet you have to be, and that's what's most scary
Hmm.
about that film. And they certainly referenced that, she was pregnant in the first
Hmm.
one, right? And then they had a
Yeah.
newborn and had to create this like soundproof bunker.
Hmm.
Super scary. Um, that one would be tough. I feel like I could make it out sometime, but you know, I, I don't know. When it comes to the kids, like that's where it gets kind of
Yeah.
hectic. What do you think, John?
I
How'd you
am
feel in
the
that
same
movie?
way. I'm like, when it comes down with the kids, I don't know how long I keep Keanu quiet. Like I think I would have to develop a soundproof like room for him pretty quickly to survive long. Um, but also at the
Mhm.
same time, I'm like, I just don't think I'd survive. First of all, like, in the movie, I'm a big guy. I think when you're skinny, you could walk a lot lighter. Being a bigger person, yeah, you're not gonna walk that light. People are gonna hear those tiptoes, those little creaks. So I'm like, I'm done there. And then it's like, in the movie, people don't pass gas. I'm like, that's not realistic, you guys. Every now and then you let one out. It's like you're gonna let one out,
Yeah.
and knowing myself, I'm like,
Yep.
yeah, I'm gonna survive maybe a week, because if I just do that accidentally, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I'm done. So
You got to breathe at both ends, Sean. It's
you you
it
you
comes
got
down
to,
to it.
yeah. That's the one realistic. The one thing about the movie I'll say, you guys weren't realistic because people do that. People burp, you know, even though you're not eating much, having a can of beans, that have been there for years, something's gonna come out that's
Yep.
not normal. So
Yeah, we're all creatures of habit too.
yeah,
There's many years building up to that moment. You get stuck in a habit.
yeah.
You think you're gonna have a silent but deadly occasion, but
Hmm.
one gets let out, and it's like,
Yeah.
man, that made some noise and might be death. You never
Yep.
know in a movie like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a really good film to reference as far as
Mhm.
survival goes. Another one I have here for you. We'll go with Halloween. Michael
Mm.
Myers on the loose. He's going around town. He's kind of going after everybody.
Yeah.
How do you feel like you would do, say he's kind of on your tail and or you feel like he's out and about. Like how do you feel like you would kind of survive
Ah,
in that situation?
I've always thought about that one because I'm like, he doesn't run. He just shows up. Like, I don't know if he has some teleportation powers. I've always thought about that.
Yep.
But I
Mhm.
think, and I see all these Halloween challenges. Have you seen those on TikTok where people like run to their door trying to open it, see if
Yes,
they get in
those are
there?
good.
Knowing the set of keys I have, I'd die. First of all, I don't think I'd make it. But I think the one thing how to survive is you just gotta outrun him. Like just keep on running. You might have to run 4 or 5 miles, then find a car, and then drive away for like 100, who knows how many miles. And if he comes back finding you, he has some mythical powers, but I think it's more survivable. Um, if I'm stuck in a house, I'm jumping through a window, like straight up. How he goes into the homes. I see him. I'm jumping through the window wherever I'm at. I might die falling 2 stories, but I also know I could survive, you know. But that's my thoughts with Halloween. Um, It's very interesting. What about you, Tim? How do you think you'll do?
Yeah, in when I'm watching movies like that, I don't know if the audience or you yourself, John, does this. I put myself into that film, and I don't. I'm just like, what would I do in that situation?
Hmm.
And one thing that comes to mind is I feel like I would have s- the biggest strength of my life,
Yeah.
and I would just like pick up a dresser and just chuck it at him,
Yeah.
try to wedge him against the door real quick,
Hmm.
just but worst case scenario, yeah, I'm busting through a window like it's
Hmm.
nothing, like it's sugar glass.
Yeah.
I'm out that B all
Hmm.
quick, and I'm hopping fences. I'm literally
Hmm.
looking like Jamal Charles in his prime,
Yeah.
and just
You're just
on the
not
loose.
stopping.
and
Not
and
stopping.
yeah, if that's the case, if I'm alone. If not, hold on, kids. We're all three going through some glass. Let daddy
Yeah.
hit the glass first, and
Yeah.
then I'll take the fall. And then,
Yeah.
we're tumbling down, and
Hmm.
I'm just holding them. And besides that, I'd hop in a car and I would just be to the next town over.
Hmm.
I would just keep driving and
Hmm.
fill up on gas and just keep going again.
Yeah.
It's all the way out of there. And I feel like that's the best defense. You just leave town. Everybody else
Yeah.
is staying in town. They're staying in the same house he's
Hmm.
at. It's like, man,
Trying
you
to
guys are all wrong.
hide. Yeah, it's like trying to hide in a different house. It's
Yeah.
like, no, he knows where you're at. Like, move, just leave for like a few months, and then he'll move on to whatever his next victims are. And like I said, if you continue finding you, well,
Yeah.
just continue moving. Across the country. Cross that ocean, go to Europe.
Yeah.
Go to Russia.
Exactly.
In Russia, I don't think he's gonna go mess with Putin. So, hey, you'll be safe there.
No. Yeah. No, I
So.
mean, you reach a certain point of the world, you're probably going to meet more than just like a knife or,
Hmm.
a machine gun. You're probably going to face some artillery.
Yeah.
I don't think that dude's surviving that. So,
No.
it's
Yeah.
it's all different out here in 2024.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I feel like it's more defensible than I think a
Mm.
quiet place would be for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure. Another one, and there's a movie about it, but it's also just a theme. 28 days later, so like a zombie apocalypse. How do you
Oh
think
yeah.
you would deal with a zombie apocalypse, Tim?
That one's rough. And I forget that film. Were they slow walking zombies or were they a little bit
No, no,
quicker?
those were quick running zombies.
Ah, so it was like World War Z, right? Like where they're
Yeah.
just like climbing
Hmm.
walls and going up to
Yeah.
planes. Oh, that's rough. That's rough.
Hmm.
You know, I think at that point, like you just got to go to the nearest like army base
Hmm.
and just get whatever they got, and just I wouldn't go fly any planes or anything like that,
Hmm.
but give me something armored, drive it around,
Hmm.
things like that, or get to a higher point with lots of resources, things like that. That's rough. I feel like that's tough, and I don't know, maybe you catch a boat, you just take a boat
Hmm.
somewhere. Satellites might still be up, so you have GPS and you can just get
Yeah.
to an island where, maybe that island isn't dealing with what the rest of the mainland is.
Hmm.
I feel like that would be my best escape was getting on a boat and just going somewhere a little bit more deserted.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know, but that's tough. If they're fast moving, that's a game changer. If they're
Yeah.
slow, then it's
Mm.
it's just like, after a while, it's like you're stiff arming them.
Yeah.
It's it gets a little bit easier. What do you think,
It's
John?
a I always think that one would be a hard one. Like I've always thought about those scenarios. Like I say, with a family, I think it's still possible. The one thing I always think of is like I need to find a place that I could wall off and not let anything come in and just be us, be able to produce crops, all that, and just be very quiet. And then like you mentioned, gotta find a lot of artillery. So go into those military bases, police stations, stock up on all that stuff. But um it would be hard. I think it's more the shelter piece that I think it'd be hard with that because if they find out where you're at and you're not having something to protect you, you're gonna have to run out of the house. And with the family, if the kids are sleeping, trying to run out of the house, zombies coming in through the front door. you're going through windows again, like we talked about. A big theme with horror movies. We're going to go through windows. We're going to go through walls, whatever we have to. And, you
Yeah.
know, if you get hurt with fast moving zombies, it's not the same as Michael Myers. They're going to catch up to you and just get one bite, you're done. So it's a hard one.
Yep.
Like I say, if it was slow moving zombies, like you mentioned, I think it'd be a lot more manageable, but who knows?
Yeah, no, that's a toughie. Yeah, no, that one's creepy for sure. Do you want to go one more? Want to go one more
Yeah,
on
we
this,
could
John?
do, yeah, we could do one more.
Okay, for sure. Um, I don't know what direction I want to go with this. Do I want to go something that's a little bit more far-fetched, or do I want to go something that's a little bit more realistic? I kind of like the realism game. So let's go with The Shining. Let's go with The
Mm,
Shining because that movie in general, I have it written down here because obviously it's one of the OGs
hmm
in the horror movies, and it's kind of like the mind effers in a
hmm
way. And so your mountaintop, obviously,
hmm
it's bone killing outside with as far as like how cold it is. So you're
Yeah.
not going to survive too well out there unless you have a vehicle. So you're kind of stuck in the hotel,
hmm
which they're kind of safeguarding. How do you feel like you would do against Jack
Um,
Nicholson in that?
I think it might be possible, like you mentioned with sort of Halloween. I just gotta I'm gonna go stay at the suite, try to gather all my, rations, and then I'm just gonna put everything in front of the door. Put beds, dressers, whatever to lock it up. Yeah, he's gonna hack through it, but it's gonna take some time, and then, I could find ways to, defend it because like I said, I think when you have that adrenaline pumping, you could do a little bit more than what they did in that movie against Jack. Um, but I think that's the way I would survive it. I think the one thing is the mind piece, like would I just go stir crazy in one small hotel room? And if that's the case, I might turn into the next Jack. Who knows? If I would get that crazy and start going on a rampage. Um, but I
Yeah.
think that one's possible. But like I say, I think that's more of a mind thing. Like, can you survive being stuck in one small room for pretty much the whole time until this coldness goes away?
Yeah, for sure. That might be like
Mm,
a escape at daylight kind of
mhm,
scenario. Regardless of weather, maybe you just kind of make a run for it, and the further you get down the mountain, hopefully
mhm,
the warmer it gets.
mhm.
I think that's what I would rely on is wait for daylight. I'm still gonna I'm gonna bust out a window again. I know we're
Oh
pretty big on that.
yeah, yeah.
But I'm gonna bust out that window of that suite. I ain't
Mhm,
going through the hotel any longer.
mhm,
Um, but yeah, I think that might be the route. But that's kind of
mhm,
a tough one. Stir crazy, the mind game, and then you're up on a
mhm.
mountain where you're snowed in. That's tough. Certainly different than Halloween, in that
Yeah.
aspect. But hey, maybe you have a little bit more fighting for you with maybe not the forces behind Michael Myers and his
Mhm.
teleportation that we all feel like he
He,
has. So
I'm telling you, he has
yeah,
something because, like I say, he always just shows up at the right place at the right time,
yeah,
and I'm like, dude, you were like 5 blocks away, and you're here already.
dude.
Like,
Yep.
unless he's just a good tracker, so who knows?
Yeah, his walking speed is Usain Bolt's sprinting speed.
Yeah,
It's outrageous.
that's
Yeah.
hilarious.
So I don't know how he does it.
Hmm
Yeah. But speaking of mountains and wilderness and
hmm
forests, quickly, I certainly wanted
hmm
to kind of reference, forests in general.
Yeah.
This is a topic that I feel like is spooky and kind of has like oftentimes I've kind of looked into a lot of
hmm
forestry and people who work for the national forest industry, um, the stories that they have because there's
hmm
so much out there, there's so much wilderness that's either uncharted or just there's no help for miles and
hmm
miles and miles. So um, I don't know if you've looked into this much, John, or have kind of seen some videos in the past
hmm
about it.
I have seen some videos of, the forest. Are they haunted? Some of the weird stuff that go happen in some of them, and it's for me, it's just a very freaky thing. Like the forest, like when there's daylight, it's beautiful. Like all the trees, everything. It's an amazing place to be. I think the scenery, I think we talked about it, a while ago where, for me, like a brewery that I'd want to create, and there probably is some, is in a forest, with the tall redwoods, just like, the lights, the light bulbs hanging down. It'd be an awesome scenario, but then at night, being there alone, I think there's a lot of stuff that happens in the forest, which is scary, and there's a lot of videos about it. And the one thing I sort of think about is, I don't know if on TikTok, this was months ago, that one video game where you're that park ranger and then you're taking pictures and you see like a cult,
Oh, yep.
and then you take a picture and then they all look at you. I'm like, I don't think I'd ever want to be a park ranger because, first off, you're there alone. The next park ranger station, is probably like a few miles down, but what's between there is crazy. And if you see something like that, and then in the video game, once you take the picture, you gotta hide because they come, into your ranger station high above, and it's like that's one a window. We could jump out of it, Tim, but I don't think we're surviving that fall, So
No, yeah, that's
yeah.
that's a game changer for sure. Yeah, no, and it's I think it's the Firewatch for
Hmm.
summers over
Yeah.
there. And I've seen some clips on it because a lot of people do that seasonally
Hmm.
with the forestry industry. And they have those high up
Yeah.
that takes a staircase or ladder to get to. And you have this beautiful view of the horizon. And
Hmm.
it looks stunning during the day, but at nighttime, everything changes. I
Hmm.
think about how so many people go missing in the
Hmm.
forest because you're so easily lost. Like every
Yeah.
every next tree looks like one you just passed.
Hmm.
And I think that, we kind of reference with The Shining, like becoming delirious or,
Hmm.
your mind wandering. I think it's an incredibly easy place to panic.
Hmm.
And it just becomes a survival game. How much do you have in a backpack? Do you have a backpack? Do you have
Hmm.
water? Um, what's out and about? What are your survival instincts?
Hmm.
So, um, another thing that comes to mind is, I've been on, as most of us have been on Reddit,
Hmm.
and there's a Reddit forum called No Sleep, and I think on there, park rangers have kind of come forward with their nightly or daytime experiences as
Hmm.
far as stories go. And a big one that's always referenced is the staircases to nowhere in the forests. And a lot of people don't know who built them, why they're there, and they always say never walk up them because when you walk up them, they almost act like it turns into a portal.
Hmm.
I think one of the stories was there's a field trip or a camping,
Hmm.
field trip type of ordeal where a boy got off the path. I think he was a younger boy and got away from his group. And he may have gone up one of these staircases on his
Hmm.
own. They found him, but he was unfortunately passed away. But
Hmm.
I guess they did an autopsy and they found all of these holes in vital organs, and it was like puncture holes throughout. And nobody knows how that
Hmm.
would have happened because on the surface level, I guess his body looked okay and
Yeah.
normal. Um, but that's like one scenario. There's other ones where people hear growls. I know a big one is the Appalachians.
Hmm.
I know, John, you sent me a link, and
Yeah.
I kind of referenced it too. If a lot of people believe in the noises, the knocking.
Hmm.
A big one out there is skinwalkers.
Hmm.
That kind of take the form of things or sounds you
Hmm.
recognize, like a dog or a human, or try to replicate a voice. And those skinwalkers, try to take advantage of those
Hmm.
situations. Um, what are your thoughts on the Appalachians in general, or even these staircases?
The staircases I've never really heard of, and that just sounds very freaky. Like
Hmm.
if I would see a staircase
Hmm.
in a forest, I don't even think I'd walk the opposite way. I wouldn't even get close. I wouldn't even want to look at it, touch it,
Yep.
just because it's almost like a horror movie. You know, going up those
Mhm.
staircases, it's not going to be good. You know, no matter what
Nope.
the sign is, it could say, free Ferrari up there. I'm not going for that free Ferrari. Anybody else can enjoy it, if you make it
Yep.
back. Um, the Appalachian Mountains, I've seen those videos and those are just freaky because, like I say, I believe they're real. Who knows how much of it can be AI with the way AI is nowadays, but those are stories you've always hear about. Those are movie themes that you always see about. And the skinwalkers, that's a freaky one too, because I've seen videos where it's like a family pet and you could just see something in the eyes that's so off with that animal. And it's like, holy shit, like you cannot open that door. Like it is some of the freakiest stuff. I see people live there, and in my head, I'm like, no, if I knew that, I don't care if I have a mansion and I'm only paying $10 for it. Like, I'm not living there. Like, hell no. I'm gonna go somewhere else. That's my
Yep.
feeling with the Appalachian Mountains. I don't know, Tim. What about? I know you see a lot more of those stories and videos.
Yeah, TikTok is a big app for the more
Mhm.
you watch, the more you're going to see.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated with Appalachian videos. Like
Hmm.
I'll watch them from beginning to end.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, check out my security camera, my ring footage of
Hmm.
what I thought was at my front door and what do you guys think it is, blah blah blah. I'll go through the comments and of course, a lot of them are like, oh, that's, just a random creature
Hmm.
that they'll reference from ancient times or whatever, and I'll
Hmm.
kind of laugh at that. But it's still like it's kind of like that rush of thinking like, dang, like it's unexplained.
Hmm.
And the wilderness, like, I don't know, I compare it to the deep sea. A
Hmm.
lot of it's unexplored. There's tons of caves and walkways, and
Hmm.
people think that there's all these caves and tunnels that are
Yeah.
within our national forest system that are undocumented or uncharted, or maybe the elites only know
Hmm.
it, and that's where a lot of these missing people go. Um, I, Maybe I'm just kind of digging myself a hole of
Yeah.
conspiracy, but it's something that it's truly uncharted. Like not everybody's walked every square inch of a
Hmm.
forest. It just hasn't happened. So, it's kind of fascinating. You don't know what's exactly out there. Obviously, people are still think Bigfoot's out there.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
come across videos of that all the time.
No, yeah.
So, but it could just be another beef jerky commercial if you ask me.
It could be.
So, it's fascinating. And it's unexplained with these staircases. Who made them? Why are they
Hmm.
there? What did they used to go to?
Hmm.
Was it once a tree house and it's no
Yeah.
longer there, but the staircase lasted because it was more durable?
Hmm.
We don't know. So I don't know. It's creepy. They've even made horror films, of course, out of the forest, and they made a horror film out of the suicide forest in
Hmm.
Japan, and there's just I don't know.
There's a lot.
It's a crazy thought, and
Hmm.
mhm,
Yeah,
yeah,
there's a
most
lot of
definitely.
them. Well, one video I saw, Tim, and just sort of get your thoughts of it and how scared you would be is it was a video of a forest ranger, just a story of them sharing that, there was two of them, they were camping. One of them went to go search for something, and all of a sudden the forest just goes like quiet, like there's like no noise. And then the noise comes back. He goes back to his campground because at first he thinks he's having like a stroke, something happened in his mind, he lost like audio, but then he sees his friend having the same reaction of like what the hell just happened. And he's like, it just went quiet. Like, what would you do if like you were in the forest just hiking and all of a sudden it just goes quiet? Like, I think I would be like, I'm done. Something's getting me. Like, for everything to go quiet, not hear wind, birds, anything, and it's just like quietness. Like, I'm like, no, that's not good.
Yeah, first thought is I hope to see another day, and this just becomes an awesome
Yeah.
story of the last time I ever went camping.
Yeah.
Because I sure as hell wouldn't do it again.
Yeah.
And the big thing with that is like you hear the forest go quiet with how many animals are out
Hmm.
there. If it goes quiet, there's danger
Hmm.
clearly within your vicinity. And my mind would go from bears to skinwalkers because it's a
Hmm.
myth and the chupacabra. I don't
Yeah.
know.
It could be.
It's like, and again, it becomes. I think the scariest part is the mystery behind what's out there. I feel
Hmm.
like between horror movies, as we talked about, to undocumented, uncharted territory within mainland or deep sea,
Hmm.
whatever, it's like we don't 100% know
Hmm.
exactly what's there. And are we staying the night in a place that the campers before us were mangled by an
Hmm.
unknown creature? It's like what the hell?
Yeah.
And my mind would go wild, especially when it's pitch dark and
Hmm.
there's no sunlight for hours. Um, that'd freak the hell out of me.
Hmm.
And I think then I would make sure my car's nearby because I
Yeah.
would sure as hell get in my car and just drive away.
Yeah.
I would say I wouldn't care. I'd leave. I don't care if the camping gear is like $1,000 or
Hmm.
whatever. I would leave it there,
Yeah.
drive to civilization
Hmm.
at that point, and sleep in my car because that would be game over. What about you, John?
Yeah, same thing. I don't think I'd stay. I'd be running, hightailing out of there, just grabbing Keanu, Ver, let's get out of here, leave whatever. I don't care what we left. Like you mentioned, my life is, I think, more valuable than whatever amount of money all that camping gear is there. So, um, yeah, it'd be freaky. I used to enjoy camping. I haven't done it much. I think I just don't enjoy it as much anymore. But,
Mhm.
I would have to go to a campground that I know is very populated. I'm not going to go into a forest where nobody is and nobody might know where I'm at because that's where things go bad. And the one thing you sort of mentioned, like the caverns, all the caves in these national forests that aren't documented. And, I hear about all these like cavern explorers, climbers that go into those caves, exploring new terrains in there. And I'm like, why are you guys doing that? Because you do hear people getting lost, and in my head is like, I think in the movie The Descent. Have you ever seen that one?
Yeah, I think so. Uh-huh. And
Yeah,
they
yeah,
go deep caving, right?
yeah. They go deep caving, and then
Yep.
they take trying to explore a new place because I think once you explore it, you could sort of claim it that you were the first there. You could call it whatever ca cavern, whatever. But I'm like, in my head, I'm like, that's not worth my life because how about if you go into a place that has these monsters? How about if you go into a place almost like with as above, so below, of you cross this place and you go, into the other side, you go, down below to hell. Like, I don't want to risk that because, like I said, my life is just more valuable than a lot of that stuff. So it's like, it's crazy people do it. Kudos to them for having the balls to do it. I just don't think I would ever do it because there's just so much unknown and it's just freaky to me.
For sure. Yeah. And you think of caves and confined spaces.
Hmm.
You see the confined space where they're like doing a bear crawl. They have to like
Hmm.
literally like breathe and then,
Hmm.
exhale and kind of squeeze through the next part. Like,
Hmm.
F that. Ain't no
Yeah.
way I would ever
Mm.
like, there's zero enjoyment in that. Like
Hmm.
somebody else can write their name that that's their cave. I could care less.
Yeah.
And you know, another thing that we've kind of preferenced a lot in these, horror films of having a quick getaway,
Hmm.
in a way out.
Hmm.
Camping for sure. I feel like I would want to camp near my vehicle for obvious reasons.
Hmm.
Because you never know what's going to go on out there. But there's one story that came to mind when we kind of discussed that, where this guy, I think it was in Washington State, and he was doing a solo hike across a mountain range, and um, he started in one area, camped there for the night, started hearing some noises, and
Hmm.
some what sounded like some noise just in the hedge, the tree line right next to
Hmm.
him. So he didn't think much of it, maybe thought it was an animal, but then he goes to his next location. I think he was hiking, what he mentioned was maybe 10 miles a day or so.
Hmm.
He would get to the next location, but then that noise would still be there and it sounded human.
Hmm.
And I think that he ended up seeing a set of eyes in the dark as he flashed his flashlight out, and he saw the set of eyes in the tree line, but it was dark enough where you couldn't see exactly what it was.
Hmm.
And I think that night that he saw something there, I think he packed up and continued walking. And I think what he did was he walked through, like, I think he walked even more that night. He got to a destination where he did like a completely random direction than when he was projected to go. So
Hmm.
he tried to go totally off the grid and just kind of throw whatever was following him off. He gets to that next location, and it ended up being a human, had followed him 30 plus miles to from campsite to campsite and tracked him down. And I think he ended up like confronting the person. But at that point, you're 30 miles away from what vehicle you went there with or were
Yeah.
dropped off.
Hmm.
So you're kind of defenseless. Like if
Hmm.
something keeps following you, unless you're armed or you
Hmm.
have a weapon on you, but obviously murder comes
Uh,
up, it's like you
yeah.
don't want to catch a case, but it's like, man, at what point, like, what do you do?
Uh,
You're by yourself, you have no communication. Like, that's why I feel like I would never leave my vehicle like that. What do
mm-mm.
you think about that, John?
I
Just
I
off the
wouldn't
grid stuff.
either. I wouldn't do any of that off the grid stuff. I think if that first night I saw those eyes, I would have waited till the daylight and ran back to my car, left, hope my car was still there. I think that's the other reason I wouldn't want to leave my car is because who knows what they're going to do to your car. You're going to get there. If you're not near it, it's going to be flat tires because if someone is following you and they want to get you, they're going to get you. Like,
Yep.
so, kudos to those people that do it. Have you seen that one, the TikTok dude, the guy with glasses always just camping and hiking around like all these places,
Yes. In
you know,
Alaska.
in Alaska. And there's some
Yeah, yeah,
videos
yeah.
that he does where he hears noises, and most of the time he says it's like wolves, the coyotes, animals that are around. But sometimes
Hmm.
I'm like, how do you know? Like, how about if it's a skinwalker making that noise? And I'm like, man, there's
Yeah.
gonna be one day, like if you don't make any more videos, I'm gonna be like, something got you, you just met your match doing that. But I do enjoy his videos. I'll enjoy that wilderness exploring through his phone and his eyes and not do it myself.
For sure. Yeah. If I had to choose somebody that, hey, I'm going on a cross Alaskan wilderness retreat, he would be the dude I'd ask
Yeah.
to go, be my mentor for it,
Yeah.
my guide. But he brought his kiddo in that one
Hmm.
situation with the wolves making all
Yeah.
those noise and just like, I guess like it almost sounds like a laugh or like a growl,
Hmm.
like a squeak.
Yeah.
Like just this noises that they make, it just sounds unearthly. Like it doesn't
Hmm.
sound like a wolf or really anything
Yeah.
that we know. So, and with it being like dark, and then you're trying to not worry your kid,
Hmm.
like that's pressure. Like
Yeah.
that's not much. There's just that elastic tent
Hmm.
between you and however many are in that
Yeah.
pack, whatever it is. So they
Hmm.
know you're in there. So that's freaky.
Hmm.
Again, that's why I wouldn't do it. And sorry, I've watched so many videos on just like wilderness stuff
Yeah.
that even when you have a getaway vehicle, I've seen situations where people will knock down trees to block the roadway, where
Hmm.
you have to or put huge branches in the
Hmm.
road where you have to either risk it and drive over that branch.
Hmm.
If you have a big enough vehicle, hopefully you make
Yeah.
it, or you're getting out of your vehicle and trying to move something that you might be able not to move. Like,
Yeah.
just like, what do you do?
I,
Um,
I
so
don't
much
know.
crosses my mind. It's like, is it worth it? The
Yeah.
forest looks cool, but I don't know.
Yeah. But I think with like that scenario, it's not even the forest, it's anywhere. Because I've seen videos of people
Yep.
just driving like through the desert and there's just this random person walking on like in the highway, like it's just you, darkness, driving, and someone's just like in the middle of the highway walking, look like they're like a zombie or something. And in my mind, it's either I'm turning around, busing the Yui and going back to where I started with and just wait till it's light out to start my journey again, or I'm gonna try to go through that as quick as I can, push it to 100, you know, and just get out of there because I'm just like, you're not stopping, I'm never gonna stop at stuff like that. I'm just gonna run through it or just bust a bitch and peace, going back to where I started.
For sure. Yeah, even like there's those movies, I forget the name of it at the top of my head, but there's that motel movie where I think it's Luke Wilson
Oh
is stars in
yeah,
it,
it's an old
where
one. Yeah.
where they put the video cameras in the rooms and then they
Hmm.
have those tunnels that lead up to the rooms and they
Yeah.
have, hidden doors that you don't know about
Hmm.
and they film everything and blah blah blah. You know, you think you're safe, but
Hmm.
you're not. It's even if you
Yeah.
feel like you're at civilization. So
Hmm.
I don't know, man. And I feel like all these horror movies kind of have put something in the back of our minds that
Hmm.
you're like, you don't know what the hell is going to happen, but at
Yeah.
least you're kind of alert to what could
Hmm.
happen.
Yeah. I think they
So,
prepare you for maybe what could be the worst scenario. Like I say, I think likelihood of a lot of these horror
mhm,
movies coming to life, are very slim, but we can't
mhm,
say nothing will ever happen to us or even around us. Like I say, one example, don't really like talking about it, but it's like the shootings, I don't think we ever thought it would
yeah.
happen in Ventura County and then borderline happened, unfortunately a lot of people did lose their life and it's just that reality of you're never safe, and you just have to always be mentally prepared for that because you don't know what could happen. Like the likelihood of it happening, very slim, but that doesn't mean it's never gonna, there's not that possibility. So the horror movies, I think, prepare us for a lot of those situations when we go into situations like that, go to the forest, go traveling cross country, go to a haunted house, things like that. So, um,
Yep.
like I say, I think they're scary. Hate watching them, love watching them, enjoy the adrenaline rush, but I enjoy this month for that stuff.
Yeah.
Hmm.
No, I completely agree. And it's the one time of year, the month
Hmm.
of the year where you get to kind of, look back at classics or,
Hmm.
new horror films or, even clips and just kind of get spooked. Before we get into, happy holly jolly, holiday season, of course.
Yes.
But, one thing I wanted to reference too, just based off of, of course, the scary reality that of the world we live in right now is,
Hmm.
mass shootings or, disasters that could happen at any moment. A big thing that, I kind of grasp onto from the fire academy and taking fire science classes
Hmm.
because, there was footage that we had to watch with, places being burned down and
Hmm.
victims being involved. I won't go too far into it, but
Hmm.
it kind of brought to light the biggest thing. I do it to this day. If I'm in a place where there's a lot of people or it feels overcrowded or just a mass amount of people, before we settle into exactly where we're going to be for that event or situation,
Hmm.
I mark out my exits. What's my nearest exit?
Hmm.
And I will pinpoint that so that way I know it in my head that if, God forbid,
Hmm.
something happens, I know where I'm going
Yeah.
because it takes a moment, a split second to recognize that,
Yeah.
and then you can dart off in that
Hmm.
could be life or death. So I one quick shout out if anybody watching, the biggest thing is just know your exits,
Hmm.
and that is by far the most important piece
Hmm.
in a lot of situations. So
Yeah.
just wanted to
No, yeah.
reference that.
Yeah, no, yeah, and I agree. I think I do that a lot too. It's like even going to the Weezer
Hmm.
concert, knowing about all that stuff, I'm like, okay, what are my getaways? How am I going to get out of here if I need to get
Hmm.
out of here quickly? What's going to be my safest route? And like, yeah, you're going to be in a panic, but as long as you still have that in your mind, you're going to have a better chance than others that don't think of it. So, yeah, always having that
Yep.
route. I think it's a good thing, just be prepared. 'Cause like I say, we don't want to take the joy out of all these fun things, but it's the reality of where life is and where the world is nowadays. It's unfortunate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And most of all, I'll make a joke at the end of this to kind of lighten the mood towards the end here. But hey, if you have a window to jump through, John and I are prepared. So,
Yeah, yeah.
it's
Well,
yeah,
yeah,
just
you've heard
find
us
a
today.
window.
We're gonna jump through a lot of windows. We're ready for that. Window, even those double
Uh,
pane windows, I'm a big guy. I think I get, I'm not gonna test it, but I think I get
oh,
through it, when I need
easy
to.
business, Sean. You got the
Yeah.
shoulders, just,
Yeah, just a
boom,
little,
truck. Yeah.
Yeah. But no.
For
But yeah,
sure.
that awesome. But yeah, that's our topics for this week, our episode. I say it's still Halloween. I think we have a great episode coming up next week. We have Rob coming back. We record on Mondays. This gets released on Wednesdays, so we're releasing it the day before Halloween. So we are gonna have some spooky content, some conspiracy talks, and probably a lot more. So you guys don't want to miss out. We may not talk too much sports. Maybe we'll do a mini pod, separately to sort of do those updates if for those that enjoy hearing us talk and hearing our opinions. We like sharing it with everybody, even if you guys don't like it. Um, but yeah,
For sure. Yeah, we won't get everybody to like our hot takes, Sean,
yeah,
but it's most of all, that's what we're here for, is just to kind
yep,
of vent about the things that, that we like to. We have a lot
hmm
of opinions on what happens in sports day to day. So I feel like last time it worked out pretty well where we did that little mini segment of, a quick synopsis of NFL week and basketball starting up and
yeah,
World Series. So we could talk all about that real quick. And as Sean said, it's going to be really fun to have, Rob come back on, a returning guest. And a lot of what we'll be talking about is stuff that he's super fascinated with. So I'm sure it'll be pretty eye-opening for not just us, but
hmm
everybody. So we're excited to get him back on here. I think we
yeah,
have some fun stuff planned with that. So
yeah, for sure. But yeah, thank you to everybody listening, our subscribers. Keep on getting some every week. So we appreciate everybody subscribing, checking out our channel, listening to our full length videos and even our shorts. Comments, please hit that subscribe, leave comments. We enjoy interacting with you. We enjoy that engagement. It really helps us. And like I said, we like engaging with everybody because that's what we're here to do. We're here to talk. Like we said, we have some out there hot takes, but I think it's what a lot of people also think. I wonder how
mhm.
many people also think Bronny's going to start tomorrow. Yeah, because like I said, I think that's gonna be my biggest hot take,
Yeah,
and I'm gonna clip it that day of. Like once I see him, if he starts, I'm gonna come in here and clip it and just post it immediately to share that I talked
absolutely.
about it the day before. But and if you guys
Yep.
have any topics you guys want to hear about, please comment. Let us know, and if you want to join us and talk about it, please let us know. We're willing to have any guest, even if we don't know you. Let's get to know each other. We appreciate listening.
100%. Always
Yeah.
find the good. Banter
Yeah.
5, 10% off.
Yes,
Love
10%
the
off.
brand, love the message. Mental
Yeah,
health is important, guys.
it is. It is. But yeah, thank you everybody. Thanks, Tim. Fun convos. Always a good time. Appreciate it. And we'll see everybody next week.
Yes, thank you, everybody.